Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It is time once again for V8SCOPS in 2024, the third round of the championship from Watkins, Glen, one of the classic iRacing V8 venues on the iRacing service. Changing things up a little bit this year. Usually we run the Cup or the Classic layout in Scops, but this time we're running Classic Boot. It'll be interesting to see how that affects the racing. But one thing's for sure, it's going to remain a slipstream fest the whole way through. Bringing it to you all live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, Scott Rankin with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy handling production behind the scenes. Well, Scotty, I'm looking forward to this one. Watkins Glen, always one of the rounds that I'm the most hyped up for when it comes to this series.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I come from a NASCAR background, realistically, so anytime we transition to a track in the States that NASCAR traditionally runs on, you're always going to have my attention. I love the layout here, always love the layout here, though, so that's not NASCAR affiliation, that's just, I really, really like the track. He talks to a lot of drivers, though. This is actually quite a tricky track to get a supercar right for, and therein lies your problem. You got to have downforce, you got to have a little bit of straight line speed to get your job done. Normally, though, we run that chicane, and what that means is you got to have a car that also balances itself really nicely over curbs. Not running that, though, tonight, and I think that's actually going to surprise a few people with just a couple tweaks in the way it drives.
Yeah, I think in general, maybe a bit stiffer of a car, firmer suspension, maybe a little more rotation in the car as well, because you don't have to tune for those very harsh curbs there. But you will have to tune for high speeds, you'll have to tune for responsiveness, and you'll have to tune for maximum straight line. It is all about the slipstream here at Watkins Glen International. Let's check it out from the air. Upstate New York, this place is one of the original road courses to be built in the United States. Previously, in the 1950s, public road races were held around the village of Watkins Glen, but of course that wasn't very safe, so the decision was made to build a permanent racetrack. The layout was a little bit different to what it is now, but the essential character of the circuit has stayed the same. It is fast, it has flow, it's got heavy braking zones, it's got plenty of places where a tiny error can balloon into a disaster.
I tell you what, it's the redesign on iRacing. Is this no? We actually have raced on it once since the expanded track limits have sort of been added as well. So lots of opportunity now to utilize more of the track area, which is certainly a big change as well. Into again how you approach the corners, where you place the car, how much speed you can. It actually does change the setup a little bit more because you now can carry a little bit more speed. You need to rotate for a little bit longer as well. So a little bit more room off and around. You're right though, that draft train is such a big aspect of it. Fuel burn rate's incredibly important here as well. So the main reason that draft racing is kind of important is you need to get yourself. This is probably going to be very akin to a Formula E race, except for on a real world circuit rather than a street circuit, because you're not going to want to be leading. You want to be about second or third, and the third is kind of the sweet spot, just far enough up that you can save maximum fuel, not too far back that you're not swamped in traffic.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, we've got to start our action off tonight with Split 2 as always. These are the drivers who are not able to make it into the top 32 in pre-qualifying. It's a 110-kilometer race, 20 laps around this circuit. The fuel is capped at 75%, so there's a chance that we might be seeing a pit stop somewhere along the way, maybe just a splash and dash. We'll have to wait and see on that. Of course, you are competing for 3 golden tickets. The top 3 from Split 2 can race in Split 1 later on in the night if they would like to. They don't have to, but it's another chance for some higher championship points. In with live pictures now, Connor Nixon now joining Drop Bear Motorsport. Awesome to see that Drop Bears continue to expand their driver lineup, Scott, and I think Connor Nixon, very good signing.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in or out. He's been on the improve, which is the critical factor. He's got a real big passion, and a lot of people that don't know a lot about Connor and his backstory, he's got such a strong story around him as well. This is a guy that in theory should not be racing, but he has a passion for it, and he's had to make changes to his sim rig. He's had to make changes to the way that he gets in and he gets out of the simulator. He's, his lifestyle and his personal difficulties are immense. This guy should not be sim racing. He's got such a passion for the sport. He said, no, stuff that. I'm not going to accept that. I'm going sim racing. Then not only is a sim racer, just to get racing, he's good at it too. So, this is always a heartwarming story. He's a lovely guy when you got an opportunity to sit down and chat to him. And one of the big things for me is he's starting to become a little bit of an oval star, so he loves the oval racing. So multiple ticks of approval from me.
Yeah, exactly. Good to see that Nixon's out there at the moment. Making his return to the series is Andrew Fraser, who's one of the veterans of the sim racing scene in Australia, competing from a long time back. Of course, with Trans-Tasman Racing, a team that he's been with for quite some time now. Currently 15th in the standings in practice. Be interesting to see how he does. Meanwhile, look at that, Logan Barnett to Evolution Racing Team. That's quite a signing.
Well, we talked about it a couple of weeks back that, it's just been, what would you say, an immense sort of 6 months. I mean, it depends, how far you really want to go back for the Lobs Esports sort of announcements in terms of things. But the last month in particular has had so many different team changes. Another ERT driver on the horizon. What does this mean for ERT? Who knows? I mean, they've been here, they've been around for a long period of time. It's a good opportunity for the driver behind the wheels. So, it's now down to them to make what they can of it. And another team with a storied past in Australian sim racing.
Exactly right. Jason Fewens, meanwhile, doing well in V8 Veterans on Thursday night, and of course Sim Speed Zone as well. We'll be keeping up with his pace in the race as well. 7.5 minutes left in practice, and what I'm noticing here is the longer layout producing, of course, times that are as close as we've ever seen across the start-finish line for Jason Fewens. Really love this circuit, and I think it's it's just as good as it used to be with the repave and the rescan. One thing's for sure, the drivers can take a bit more out of turn 1 now, Scott, and we've seen that in action over the past year or so. It certainly makes for a little bit of a better run onto the back straight, and of course we are not running the bus stops, so that increases the importance of the slipstream.
I think one of the key factors that a lot of people disregard when you say, okay, we're actually cutting out the bus stop, is then the drop down into the carousel. So you can see the, the carousel right here as the cars are sort of cutting through. I think it was Newton, followed by Fewens, followed by Nixon, who's going to come through the shot. But one of the critical factors is actually where the layout sort of changes. The track is built around the bus stop. And what that means is on the exit of the bus stop, there's sort of a little bit of a banking change as you get into the carousel. Quite natural when you take the bus stop. When you don't take the bus stop, the car hops on the way down in as you sort of come into this bowl. So, yeah, it's that you still do have to have a balanced car, or you need to time it. There is certainly a wrong way to take that section of the track. Look for the cars that are on the inside as they enter the carousel 2-3 wide. Definitely going to struggle, but that's part of racing, isn't it? You've got to adjust to those changes.
Indeed you do. Let's take a lap around here with Jamie Stovold. Down into turn 1, just kiss the curb on the inside line, run all the way out. As long as you have 2 tyres on the orange and red striped curbs, then you'll be able to keep the lap. Any further beyond that, it's an off-track 1X. Flat out through the S's, just managing to hold the foot to the floor, and then going all the way up to top speed here, reaching a top speed of about 286 k's an hour, and there is that bump that you were talking about, Scott. Big drop coming into the carousel. We're going to see quite a few locked brakes tonight.
Yeah, and then there's the enter the boot. I mean, this is now downhill, a little bit off camber, grip's a little bit tricky to come by. Got to get the car to the apex, and you've got to hug it for a very, very long time. Then we get all the way down to the toe. This is probably one of the more tricky corners on the lap because you've got to get the car balanced as you turn it in uphill. You've got to drive out. You can over-under. You can crisscross. There are multiple different lanes that you can take through the exit here, so getting it right, timing it right is nice and key. Now you're on the run down to the heel. Another really, really strong overtaking opportunity. Get to somebody's inside as Justin McLean gets out of the way of Logan Barnett just up ahead. Then you can run, use everything out there. No off track out there, but at the same time, you're going to give yourself enough opportunity as you exit the boot up over the crest of the hill, get the car parked up. That is a very technical section.
Absolutely it is. Little bit of a lift here, potentially a tap of the brakes coming into the second last corner. That's a proper braking zone on the cup layout that we usually run in SCOPS, and that is pit entry right there on the inside of the final corner. Something the drivers will have to look out for at the very least in split 1. A lot of speed being taken out as you slow down for pit lane. So if you're in a pack and the guy in front of you decides to pit, well, you better be prepared to either have your line compromised or just run wide a bit. Make sure that you get through with enough speed.
Yeah, about timing, up through the S's is not quite flat out. You do have to lift to try and let the car rotate. One of the things we're going to be talking about tonight is tyre wear. Remember, faster corners here, lots of load. Your fronts do cop a hammering around here for the amount of time that you're spending, particularly on that left front, really gets a whacking around here. So managing your front tires is very, very important, and then that translates into your setup. How much do you want the rear end to rotate on the mid corner? How much wing are you going to run? Got to have a quick car to get overtakes done, but at the same time you need braking performance at the end of those straights as well. So you've definitely got to have some downforce. It's a real balanced track. This is not one of those tracks where you can have a setup, slot it in and go, yep, I'm quick in all 3 sectors. You will have a weak sector.
That you will. Obviously, the wing is going to be trimmed out for the back straight, but that will compromise your way around the boot section. You've got to have a car that's stable on brakes here. There's so many opportunities to fire one up the inside. It's essentially a bunch of hairpins is the boot section, though you do carry a lot of speed through them. The braking zones are heavy, so we're going to be seeing some massive moves, I think, here in split 2 as drivers try to get into those coveted top 3 positions. Brian Borg here for Racecraft Simulations, currently in 3rd. Only 2/10 off Jamie Stovold's fastest lap. Let's see what he can do to gain a little extra time coming on to turn 1 here. Just manages to kiss the curb on the inside, keeps it legal on the exit here. And another aspect of that change to the exit curb at turn 1 is it widens the way into turn 2. So you do have maybe a little bit more speed, increases the margin for error slightly, but regardless, you're coming up through the S's, Scott, side by side on lap 1. It's very likely that you're going to have a problem if you're in a pack.
Well, it's not so. I mean, how many There's a couple different ways to approach that question in my response. Number one is, how many big wrecks have we seen through the S's over the years? Because it's
Many.
a narrow section of racetrack, it's loaded, and there's just nowhere to go, frankly. So if there's any contact whatsoever together, with cars up ahead of you, there's nothing you can do. And the guys behind you, remember, you're coming up and over a crest, you cannot see from the bottom of the hill. If you jump on board with somebody who's going up through the S's, you cannot see over the crest at all. So if it happens on the far side of the crest, you've got no visibility. There's nothing you can do. It's about commitment, it's about bravery, but lap one, boy, it's about survival here. And it's a different reason to everywhere else. Normally you can see what's coming. It's got nearly a Bathurst vibe in that first sector on lap one.
Yeah, it also increases the importance of obeying yellow flags and having a couple of other people in the box with you to communicate what's happening ahead. I'm sure that the bigger teams like Synergy and ERT, etc., will have a few people behind the scenes spotting for the drivers in Split 2 and in Split 1. Nice cool track here, 25 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy conditions, but the sun is beating down on the circuit right now. There's a lot of speed available to the drivers at the moment. We'll see if those conditions change any when we get to the race session. It's going to be crucial if you have a cool track temperature to try and get that heat into the tires as quickly as possible, but also make them last. Remember, the tire drop-off in these cars is pretty insane after about 10 laps completed, especially at a circuit with a lot of high-load corners like Watkins Glen. Matt Morris will make it to the carousel, at the very least, by the time the session ticks over. And we can go through the grid for Split 2 here. Time set by pre-qualifying times. So that means Tyler Blackburn is going to be starting on pole position. He'll start alongside Matt Morris, who we were following along with at the very end of the practice session. It's an excellent front row there to see who can get the best of starts down to turn one. Ewan Baker is going to start in third place for Synergy alongside Race On All's Benjamin Smith. Ty Delaney in the 07 will start alongside the 017. Brian Borg joining him on the third row. Jamie Stovald, who topped practice, will start out of 7th spot alongside Fishy Motorsports' David Kirby. Logan Barnett is going to start out in 9th place. And Tim Mulford for Phoenix Racing Team running out the top 10.
Yeah, we're going to throw it over to 11th spot, which would be Chris Miller. A little bit deeper in the pack than he would have liked, off alongside of Matthew Skulls to his outside in the 801 machine. Michael Stewart and Justin McLean are going to make up row number 7. Andrew Fraser returning in that supercar is in 15th, right in the middle of the pack. Be interesting to keep an eye on him alongside Joe Mahoning. Rick Sebra and Damien Cairns are going to be on the next row of the grid, row number 9, a little bit further back again. Cairns has got pace. Be interesting to see if he can use it. Troy Stone Street's been performing really, really well on V8 Veterans of late. Interested to see him this far back. He's been significantly quicker than Damien Cairns, so definitely those setups not working to his favour, Reese.
No, Andrew Ritchie going to line up in 20th spot. Vincent Skilbeck and Scotty Van Loon will start on the 11th row of the grid. Jason Fewens will bring the Banter Alliance 067 out of 23rd alongside his teammate James Chastanerf. Steve Vella will bring out the Phoenix Racing Team 005 alongside Connor Nixon for Drop Bear Motorsport. Jay Brazier and Scott McKenzie, 27th and 28th. Zach McDonald and Stefan Lawrence going to round out our top 30 here. 4 more cars with Brock Mottershead and Alex Newton 31st and 32nd, and Dane Northduft is going to start in 33rd place as a reserve driver, so he's not going to be taking to the grid here. So full field of 32 cars ready to get going here for the standing start coming into turn 1. It's a pretty short run into turn 1, Scott, but anything you can gain will pay dividends later on.
I think the big key is people feel brave here at Watkins Glen, and one of the keys to that is how wide it is. We've already talked about all that runoff area down at turn 1, but think of it from a race start perspective. You can be 5 wide on the exit at turn 1. That's okay. Then you got to feed back into a track that's probably good enough for 3. You can make 4 work, but everyone's going to be minding their P's and Q's. So 3 is the maximum, 2 is preferred, basically. So, you know, look for that. That's what we've got to keep our eyes on. It gets very messy very quickly here. It's survive lap 1. You've just got to survive lap 1.
Let's see who survives lap 1. As the revs rise, grid time is over. This is where the money is made. Split 2 for round 4 of V8SCOPS of 2024 is go. And it was a good initial jump from Matt Morris. It looks like he's managed to maintain that momentum off the start. Poor start for our pole sitter, Tyler Blackburn. Manages to protect from Ewan Baker on the inside as they make their way through turn 1. Couple of drivers running wide, seeing one of the Race on Oz cars. No, sorry, not Race on Oz. It's Damien Cairns for Accelerate Endurance that is now compromised through turn 2. Make your way through cleanly. Don't hit the wall at the crest. They've all managed to get through without incident. That's a very rare occurrence here at Watkins Glen, but now the speed goes up as they make their way down to the carousel. Matt Morris on the attack here. Tyler Blackburn not having the best of lap 1s here, but he's managed to keep the lead, which is crucial.
Yeah, I tell you what, Connor Nixon gained 5 on that opening lap. Looks like he's now about to gain 6 at the moment. James Chastanoff gained 5. Damien Cairns, big loser, dropped 5. Stefan Lawrence has gained a ton of spots from towards the rear end of the field as well. So there's a bunch of big movers and shakers all the way back there. But now find that rhythm, find your space. What have you got to offer? And remember, protect those tires. Think long run pace. You've got to think long run pace.
Oh my God. Okay, so that looks like Scotty Van Loon that was just sent into the wall there. And that'll be some damage. Oh, spinning one of the Banter Alliance cars, Jason Fewens. That was the telltale smoke from his car. He went for a big slide through the heel of the boot. We've already seen a few bumps and crashes through the field. We saw Logan Barnett having lost his rear wing, and Tyler Blackburn all the way down to 13th now.
Oh,
something's gone massively wrong for him.
There's more contact, and I think it's Chasty. There's a huge incident at the tail end of the field.
Oh dear, track is blocked. Slow down, obey the yellow flags. There's an untold amount of cars involved in that incident. Oh dear. Okay, so Brock Mottershead has lost his engine there. He's going to be going straight to the pits. Same for Scotty Van Loon as well, whose troubles have continued. And that's created a big crutch here in this part of the field. The JTIT race on Oz Mustang of Benjamin Smith having to hold off Ty Delaney and Jamie Stovall. These guys now find themselves fighting for 4th place. Easy does it down the straight. They've got some gains there on the pack behind, side by side between Delaney and Smith. Benjamin is going to get the inside for the carousel. That's way too deep for David Kirby in the background. He has gone slamming into the tyre bundles. Well, first couple of turns were all right, Scott, but then it all went off.
Yeah, something's happened to Kirby. I wonder whether or not he had a pedal failure. He just couldn't see something was wrong, because that's not your standard average everyday incident. I reckon maybe he even failed to grab a gear. The other alternative is, remember how I was talking about the hops as we come down into that inner loop? Well, on the inside line, there's a hop up and there's a hop down. So there's actually 2, so your braking performance is impacted significantly. I think that was Chastanoff that went around there. Yeah,
he was tapped around, and unfortunately the rest of the field coming through at high speed. Not much time to react to that. We keep our eyes here on Mr. Kirby, as I think he just straight up missed the braking point. Good on him to dive to the inside and avoid gathering up anyone else in that incident. Oh, and that's what happened to Logan Barnett. He stalled on the grid. Andrew Fraser right on the ball there, slowing down. That has cost him positions, but fortunately he's escaped without damage from what I can see. 3 wide coming into turn 1. How do you like that? And it looks to me like the 987 of Stovold is going to get into the side of Benjamin Smith and get spun around. That's our pole sitter spinning in front of the field. It's absolutely gone crazy here on lap 2, or lap 3 as well.
I think there's only one word that'll describe a situation like this, and that's bedlam.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheer bedlam here in V8SCOPS Split 2. I'm interested to see what happened to Tyler Blackburn, who started on pole position. That JTIT race on Oz Commodore is way out of position compared to where he should be. And it looks to me, I'm just scrolling back through lap 2. Was he spun around? I'm not too sure. He actually went very deep coming off the boot section on the second lap, on lap 1 actually. So that's unfortunate. He was driving with Matt Morris here, trying to defend the lead of the race. This is how Tyler Blackburn lost the lead. And it's a little bit of contact from behind. I think the stewards will be right on that one.
Matt Morris is I feel like he's rubbed panels with quite a few cars already this season, so I get the feeling they're probably not looking on him too kindly as it currently stands in terms of how that sits. But think of, you know, license point penalties and who's on the hook for them at the moment. Was Ben Morris has actually had quite a few. He's up to 29. He's right on the cusp of a round ban. I think he's actually sitting out tonight. James Chastanoff got 20 from Phillip Island as well. So, yeah, he was in quite a hole as well. So you just keep that in the back of your mind. But how about the opportunity for Ty Delaney up to third spot? Potential for him to make it through to the main game tonight.
Yeah, that'd be big for Ty Delaney if he can make that work. Matthew Scholes getting the better exit around the outside of turn 1 here as Blackburn's trying to gain spots back. He would have obviously have reported that into race control, the incident with Matt Morris on lap 1. So maybe he'll get some recompense for that, but he's still got to fight his way up the field himself. We haven't seen a safety car yet, but we just might if we see further incidents like we saw on the first couple of laps. Scholes getting the exit nicely out of the carousel. Use all of the curb if you dare, and into the boot section they come. For Blackburn now, you know, his tyres will be warmed up thanks to the spin. Barnett having a bit of an adventure there, lawn mowing on the way into the boot section, side by side with Stefan Lawrence. Gets the run, and well, we are seeing one message from race control: all drivers be aware of netcode, big gaps being seen. So apparently servers on the fritz.
Yeah, look, the supercar's not been responding significantly well at the moment, so they're attempting to just sort of handle that in the best opportunity. Oh, McLean! Is he going to pick both their pockets? I think he is.
Yeah. Gets his way past Benjamin Smith and Chris Funky Miller. Gets a tap from Smith on the way out of the penultimate corner. Miller decides, okay, I'll get up the inside. Same for Rick Sebra as well, who we saw in V8 Veterans on Thursday night. Plenty of V8 Vets drivers in this field, and Sebra could get a run on Miller here coming into turn 1, but it's protected.
It's protected. There's so much squabbling in this pack. Think about it from McLean's perspective. He nearly got overtaken again, right? They were right in and wrapping on his bumper. Then they squabbled at the last corner. Then they squabbled at turn 1. And all of a sudden, McLean's popped out, and he's now pretty comfy at the head end of this pack. So it's just, I'm not saying don't race each other, but use your head and pick the right opportunity.
Race control deeming the contact between Van Loon and Nixon on lap 1 a racing incident. So, netcode. So I don't think Blackburn's going to be too happy with that decision, but we'll see what he can do to make his way up here in the near future. Man, Benjamin Smith is having a rough time out there. He just locked up ahead of Blackburn and Scholes. As we keep our eye here further back, Damien Cairns, he's had a bit of a rough night so far. Big damage to the front end, but for now, he's managing to keep Steve Vella behind. Not for much longer, though. Vella gets the inside through the toe of the boot. Doesn't quite hook up the exit, though. That's the thing about that section, Scott. You take the tighter line, and it's a lot easier to spin up the tires, but he'll keep it nice and tidy into the heel of the boot. Kansas going to keep it side by side for a moment, but it looks like Vella's finally got the position. So that place has been worked out. What about the fight for 10th spot? That last position in the top 10 is one of the most hotly contested on track right now. Morris still leading from Baker, but it's all on behind.
Yeah, I tell you what, Ben Smith just let his teammate Tyler Blackburn by, but the problem was he boxed in Matthew Scholes whilst trying to do that. So Scholes had actually gotten alongside of, Blackburn had gotten alongside of Ben Smith coming off of the toe of the boot, and that move was probably going to get done when they got down to the heel. But then all of a sudden, Smith just sort of lifted, coasted out of nowhere and really let him go. So he picked up 2 for 1, and he recognised he had a ton of pace over his teammate had over him. But what it's caused now is this huge bottleneck from everyone that's in behind. Stone Street's having to cover to the inside to make sure no one can get a run on him. Here goes Skulls on Smith.
Yep, and Smith turns in, gets a bump around. He slides in front of the pack, but recovers at mid-corner. He's going to lose out to Michael Stewart here, who we're riding on board with. He's going to try and defend it to the inside. He's too deep. He bumps Stewart wide. There's a lot of desperate maneuvers being done here all through the field to try and keep position. Now it's a 2x2 pack, Mahoney and Stewart, and then Richie and Brazier.
And Mahoney's going to have a go down the inside. I think it is as well. No, it's Brazier. So Mahoney's going to have another run back at him. But look at Brazier on the inside. And this is all caused... I think there's something wrong with Ben Smith's brakes. I wonder whether or not he's got the brake bias cranked a long way forward because he's locked those fronts. He's struggling to get that car to pull up. Something's not quite right with Ben Smith compared to those around him.
Well, he's had a lot of minor taps, and oh dear, there's a spinner on the exit, Brian Borg. Oh, that's a dangerous spot to be spun around. Oh, there's a gap. Borg manages to find his way to the other side of the track and get going cleanly, but man, that will sting for Brian Borg, the man who started in 6th and was running in 4th at the conclusion of the previous lap. He was side by side with the fishy car of Ty Delaney and just spun it up on his own.
Well, he's on the curb there, and there's slightly less grip on the curb, so he's grabbed a little bit of too much throttle. There's a huge moment in the meantime in turn 1. Ben Smith's just dropped 6 spots. Remember how I said he was struggling on the way in? That one's worth the replay, because all of a sudden I reckon there was more contact. This mid-pack, this 10th sort of through, they've now split. So the guys that got through ahead, Troy Stone Street's the in 10th spot, and this is Stewart to his inside, so they did make contact.
Yeah, not the first time Ben Smith has been bumped wide in this race. He managed to recover, but everyone had to find their way through, didn't they? Well, now we keep our eyes on Ty Delaney, who's now facing off against Tim Mulford, who can smell an opportunity to get into top split. Very intense race for 3rd. But I tell you what, it is still on behind Michael Stewart in P11. The pack behind him is massive. Yeah, it absolutely is. And we're not just talking about the yellow and black car of Logan Barnett, who despite his damage is really making a name for himself in this pack.
Zach McDonald's the lapped car that's attached to the end of this one. So this sort of from Michael Stewart on back here at the moment basically is Stewart, Andrew Ritchie, Logan Barnett, Joe Mahoney, Jay Brazier, and Stefan Lawrence. And then you've got another car buying into the back end of it again, which is Ben Smith. So after that contact earlier in the lap, now he's cutting through. McDonald's going to cut and get out of his way. But here goes Lawrence is going to have a go at the rear. Oh, this isn't over. This is not settled. This is not resolved by any stretch of the imagination. These guys are going to crawl out of their cars at the end of 20 laps and go, gee, was that an endurance race? Was that 6 hours worth of racing? It felt like it.
Yeah, it's only 20 laps, man. It's this has absolutely gone off. What a great way to start the night if you're a spectator, at least. Same can't be said for Damien Cairns, who's just gotten a 10-second time penalty from race control for contact with Jason Fewens on lap 1. First penalty assigned of the night. Rest of them have been deemed netcode racing incident. Keep an eye out here on Jay Brazier. He'll pick up the slipstream from Joe Mahoney, who's been making big moves in this pack for 12th spot, for 11th spot even. In the slipstream is Andrew Ritchie. Meanwhile, on Michael Stewart, not much to be done there unless Stewart messes up the run out of the carousel. Moving a bit further up, this is the battle for the top 5. Chris Funky Miller getting a good exit. Big oversteer for Justin McLean behind, who had been holding on to 6th spot for a while. He really benefited from the carnage on lap 1.
Yeah, and you know, this is something that I've had in the back of my brain that I've never actually said on in broadcasts about Chris Miller. Gee, I hope he's got funky coloured hair. Now to the inside as Tyler Blackburn's trying to pinch another spot off. Remember, started at the front end of this one, gets to the inside of McLean. And not quite done, now gets the job done. So has got that spot just back to 7th. He's still a shout here, Reese, and he's got really good pace because he's driven up to this pack, got through the squabbles of that pack in 10th. Could you imagine if he got caught in that for any extra laps? He would have still been back there. So he's got enough pace to sort of get to the front. He's the fastest car on track. He's took 0.2 of a second out of the leader on that last lap, and he's making overtakes. What's the time going to be at the line? That'll be another critical one. He's going to get a huge toe here again. I think he's still an opportunity making top split, you know.
Yeah, you never know. With the crazy incidents that we've seen so far tonight, any position could be in contention for a podium at this point. Tim Mulford versus Ty Delaney for 3rd place. This is the last golden ticket. Tim Mulford will want to join his compatriots in Phoenix Racing Team up in the top split. But he's not going for it. That's smart. He knows that there's a big gap behind, and there's not much point in trying to chase down Ewan Baker and Matt Morris at this point. They're too far ahead for him to make any meaningful impact. So just judge your moves. Make sure that you get it done cleanly while losing as little time as possible. This is a great fight.
Yeah, discipline is what this fight is right about right now. And Delaney will be sweating. And this is a really, really good opportunity for Tim Mulford to get up here, harass and harangue the young fella. And this will test him. This is notes that Tim Mulford can stick back in his little black book going forwards, because if Ty Delaney is going to be in and around him each and every week, sticking in the book, sticking in the book. The other thing I think he's actually doing is I think he's underdriving the corner entries at the moment, just trying to be really accurate, really conservative on the tyre. There's no reason having pace on Ty, getting all the way up here, driving around him, and then all of a sudden your tyres just fall off the car. So right now he's certainly trying to stay close, stay accurate. One of the best things he might actually... Oh no, Zebra!
Oh no, Rick Zebra was in the top 10, and unfortunately the big damage to the rear of the car tells the story. Must have either been hit around or impacted the wall with his rear end. He manages to get back going, but he's all the way down in 25th now. He was fighting with Blackburn, who's trying to get positions back, and they came together on the exit. Oh no, that has got to sting.
You can see what he's trying to do, though. He's expecting Blackburn to use all of the track, right? And he means all of the track. And even though the track limits do extend a little bit there, it's a little bit cheeky sometimes. Blackburn's just been aggressive, man, and that comes with risk, and I think that risk was best showed there.
Side by side on the way into the carousel, Delaney got on the brakes a bit earlier than Mulford did. Then let's see if the defense works out for him. It won't. Mulford gets the inside for the heel of the boot and gets up into third spot. See, that's exactly what he was waiting for. He was backing off before, but then the opportunity presented himself, and now he's through. But gently does it, gathers it up, and will get a straighter exit. But those tires will be a little overheated now for Tim Mulford. But I think that's exactly the scenario he was preparing for, backing off like he did.
Is Delaney fuel saving now? Is Delaney just going, okay, you can lead.
Yeah.
You can lead. I've got to save some fuel here to make sure that I get home. The race pace is just too high. So I think that might be starting to come into it just a little.
Yeah, it might. Remember, 75% fuel tank restriction. That's about 80 litres or so in these cars. So whether or not you can actually make it to the end of a 20-lap race is up for debate. If you're in the draft, you'll take any opportunity you can to save a bit of fuel. The problem for these guys is they are too far back from the rest of the field, from the top two there, to really make an impression. So they've got to rely on each other to help save fuel and get ready to shorten that compulsory pit stop that's coming up.
Well, I mean, you talked about it a couple laps ago, but you know, just being clean, concise with your moves, but not fighting. That's the key factor, isn't it? So right now, Delaney's up here. Give him a bump. Give him a bump. No, he's not going to bump draft him. He's just going to have a crack, straight out crack. Now look for the side draft, Timmy. Get over next to him. Dump some wear on that rear wing is what I'd be saying to him. They're both lifting, though, Reese, is the big thing.
Yeah, I've been corrected. No compulsory pit stop in split 2 here. So it is all about fuel saving, whether or not you can get to the end. Delaney versus Mulford. This is tough for both of these guys. Like, neither of them want to be the front car in the train. Maybe they need to try and work together here just to get to the end.
Well, see, if I'm in either one of these guys' shoes, what's going through my head is, you know what actually is the best way around this track right now? Bump drafting. It's pushing the guy along. Don't fight. Now this is all working into the hands of Chris Miller. They're both on the clutch, Reese. Both of them.
Yeah, they're getting desperate here. They cannot afford to use any extra fuel. But when you're battling at the same time as trying to fuel save, all you're doing is costing yourself bulk time. Chris Miller is only 4 seconds back from these guys, and on the last lap, he took 0.6 of a second out of Mulford, 0.9 of a second out of Ty Delaney. So
hang on,
you never know.
We might have a safety car here. I think Jason Fewens is in the wall.
Oh dear.
Jason Fewens, I think, is without an engine at this point in time. The other thing, you mentioned Miller's coming back at those guys. The next car on the road behind Miller is now Tyler Blackburn. Safety car's out!
All right.
Here we go. All bets are off. It's on, boys. It's on.
This has come at a good time for Delaney and Mulford, actually. They can afford to lift off the throttle, clutch as much as they can, and they should be able to get to the end from here. Let's see what happened to Fewens. He was already massively damaged, and I think we're going to finally see the engine go pop. It was already a little slow on the way out of carousel. There we go. Yeah, just as the revs rose up, the engine decided, no more, I'm done.
He can run a long way, but he always knew he was going to have to find somewhere. So now he looks for a marshal post. There's one right there, but you can't back the car up without an engine. There's one maybe on the left. It's just difficult. It's a tricky spot to be in.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, our leaders will make their way around the Porsche Mission R safety car, of course, sponsored by Proven Energy, ready to exit the lane and pick up our race leaders. We're seeing pits for, looks like Alexander Newton, Connor Nixon, Scott McKenzie, David Kirby, and Brian Borg. And at the very least, it looks like Nixon, McKenzie, Kirby, and Borg would have been the ones to maybe put tyres on the car, which could help them out. Obviously, Nixon with a ton of damage, so I don't know how much that's going to help him. But this is an opportunity, if you're further down in the field, to bolt some fresh rubber on the car and get yourself some extra pace.
I'd have a car. If you're at the back of the field and you've got not a lot to lose, the other side is there's a ton of cars actually out here with damage. So enough of an opportunity to get themselves not their complete car back. But if you're already in a hole, why not have a go? You got to do something different, right? We're at the 13 lap in mark, and potentially going to get one lap under safety car here. The tyre wear is reasonably high around here as well. If we talk about Matt Morris, who's leading the race, ran a 1:43.5 on his second lap. His most recent flying lap was about 0.8 of a second slower. So you've still got to be able to utilize that, and there is a huge risk with being back that far. But if you're already out and you're on the outside looking in, why not?
Yeah, why not indeed? We saw one of the cars coming in being Justin McLean, who was in and around the top 10. I'm sure he would have gotten some tyres on the car, as would Jamie Stovold, who re-emerges in 22nd place. Word. Okay. What on earth has happened to Logan Barnett there? I think the checkup behind the safety car might have caught a few people out.
And that's not the first time here that's happened either. That happened in Split 3 of Vets a couple of seasons back when they came here.
Yeah, they were just going too fast. Barnett gets collected by the 113 of Zach McDonald when they're slowing down to join the safety car queue. That's the thing, you know, you got to be aware of where the safety car is on track. You got to be ready to slow down at any moment. You carry too much speed, incidents like that happen.
Blind corner too, a little bit of a blind corner. But hey, at least we get a next. Actually, you know what? I'll take a snap of this one. I'll forward it on to Mez, and that might be the thumbnail for the next podcast episode.
Yes, indeed. You certainly can't park there. To say nothing of the fact that he's on his roof. Generally, all four tyres should be on the ground when you've parked a race car. But that's
saving on rubber, Reese. That's why he's doing it.
Of course, not that
Rubber
he can do
costs us
anything.
through the roof.
Yeah, true. But not that he can do anything about saving tyres from here on out. That's got to sting for Logan Barnett. I mean, he had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, it's just been a rough night for him. Remember, he stalled on the grid, got that rear end contact from behind, and now it's just all come to a head, and he's likely to be a retirement from this race.
Well, he got immortalized on on SCOPS coverage. So yeah, he got his 15 minutes of fame. Not the 15 minutes he wanted, but he did get them.
Indeed he did. Well, safety car touring around for at least one more lap here. We're waiting for the field to reorganize. And Dan Stevens at the wheel of the Proven Energy Porsche Mission R will bring it in momentarily. So the question is, can Matt Morris hold Ewan Baker behind And by the same token, Ty Delaney and Tim Mulford, they've just been given a free kick here. They're already desperately trying to fuel save while battling with each other, and they didn't have the benefit of any slipstream ahead. They had to try and work with each other, but now they'll be right behind Ewan Baker and Matt Morris, and they could have a second chance here at getting potentially into the top 2 spots.
And think about all of that squabbling that happened between those 2 cars in the lead up to that safety car period as well. Ty Delaney got that spot back in the nick of time. Now he's got the track position. Now he gets first dibs on having a go at the cars ahead. They're also going to try and get a couple cars waved through, so get their lap back here as well. There's an interesting opportunity. Think about Matt Skulls. Think about all of those battle packs that were really squabbling. Michael Stewart cut his way through that one, got to the head of that. Now he's inside the top 10. Think about Tyler Blackburn. He was showing such a huge turn of pace, and not just a huge turn of pace, a huge turn of pace on older tires. So his rubber is in great condition right now. This is exactly what he wanted to see.
Yeah, it could be some redemption for Tyler Blackburn after being hit out of the lead on lap 1. Vincent Skilbeck being waved around the pace car. He'll come around to rejoin the field at some point. It's a bit of a long lap around here though, so I don't know if he'll be able to get that done. Rick Sebra also getting waved around here. It's largely cars that are a lap down or further. Scotty Van Loon, who we saw with some big damage earlier, he gets waved around the pace car, and he's got a fresh car for his troubles, so could be an opportunity for Van Loon at least to make up positions after a rough night.
I mean, yeah, I don't know whether or not they're going to catch. They're probably not going to catch the tail end of the field. The opportunity, though, is the restart brings more chaos with it, which means, you know, you've got an opportunity. Now it's just go as hard as you can, go as fast as you can, go as early as you can, because they've got a long, long way to make back up. But, yeah, at least they're back out there. At least they're back circulating. And safety car's in this lap, boys. So what do we got? We're going to have ourselves a good old-fashioned 6-lap dash. That's going to be fun. Really, really big fun. 30Ks, nearly 35Ks on this one.
Yeah, that's exactly what we like to see. A mad dash to the end in Scops Split 2. The pace car pulls away from the rest of the field, and I'm always amazed at how much pace the Porsche Mission R has. Absolutely fires it away as the field falls under the control of Matt Morris, holding about 75 to 80 Ks an hour as they make their way down to the last 2 turns of the lap. The incident between Morris and Blackburn, incidentally, still under review from race control. Remember, initially they deemed it a racing incident.
They actually said they were going to review it post-race, Reese. So that one will be reviewed post-race. So it wasn't necessarily said racing incident. They're going to have another look at it post-race. I think they want to look at telemetry is the key.
Yeah, okay. Well, here we go. We get it going here for the green flag. Matt Morris will lead them away, but we're hearing that there might be a penalty incoming for Matt Morris. We'll see as Ewan Baker tries to take advantage of the restart here. Isn't able to get the move done coming into turn 1, and that's compromised his exit. That means Ty Delaney and Tim Mulford have their shot at finishing further up the podium. Through the S's we come. One more time, lap 15 of 20. Take it easy on the way out. Almost coming together there, Ty Delaney and Ewan Baker. Baker doesn't have much slipstream there. Morris switches back over to the outside line. Baker will defend from Delaney, but for how long?
The key factor, Chris Miller slapped the arm code just as he was cresting the hill. So right before he went in the right-hander through the S's, which means Tyler Blackburn got through. He's now up to 5th. He now buys onto the back end of this one. I reckon Blackburn's got a really, really big shot of getting into top split. Big shot here.
Yeah. God, and oh no, Tim Mulford and Ty Delaney. They came together. Mulford was too deep onto the brakes and hits Delaney around. I'm sure race control will immediately be onto that. Delaney now into 13th place. Justin McLean also losing positions. He's down to 24th. But how would you be for Ty Delaney falling down the order after being in a podium contending position? That's such a shame.
And there's an update come in on that incident between Matt Morris as well and Tyler Blackburn. Morris has got a 5-second penalty. So now he's going to go, and he's just going to go as hard as he possibly can. There's zero holding back now because there's nothing more he can do. He's got to get 5 seconds over Chris Miller. That's his target if he wants to qualify.
Unfortunately, Benjamin Smith getting spun around, coming off the boot section. Everyone managed to avoid him. So now Matt Morris is on the power and trying to get that extra 5 seconds that he needs over Chris Miller to still finish on the podium. Single file coming up through the S's here in the midfield. And the 113 of Zach McDonald will be classed as a DNF for escaping without permission. Benjamin Smith, meanwhile, coming into the pits to potentially get some damage repaired. Damien Cairns having trouble still with the heavy damage he's got on the car. That'll be 1 extra position for Ty Delaney on his recovery, but it still won't numb the pain of getting hit out of a podium contending spot. Andrew Ritchie up into 9th spot, trying to make moves here on Matthew Scholes.
Yeah, settles himself down on it, and this is another big opportunity. But have a look at Troy Stone Street. Remember, he was further back on this restart. He's gained so many spots here. His next victim is Tim Mulford, so he's not out of this one yet, and his car's coming alive as this run goes on. Stewart's reasonable in there behind him as well. And Chris Miller's now threatening to make it into top split. All he's going to do is stay within 5 seconds of Matt Morris, and that 666 machine returns to top split.
That it does, and I think Miller would be very happy with that. All things considered, at the very least, Fishy Motorsports is potentially going to get 1 car onto the podium. We'll have to wait and see. Matt Morris comes across the line to begin the 17th lap. In terms of lap times, 143.3. Chris Miller, meanwhile, 143.8. So Morris is going super quick right now, but still 2 seconds to Chris Miller. The margin is just not great enough. Is there anything that Ewan Baker can do to overcome him here? I mean, Ewan Baker can sit there knowing that he will get the race win with that penalty for Matt Morris. However, he still wants to have a go. He needs to keep Tyler Blackburn behind him as well, who's found himself in the podium spots once again.
I don't know whether or not Ewan Baker knows. The other side of things to consider is, at the moment, Ewan Baker's not quite fast enough to overtake and catch and then potentially overtake Matt Morris. So the other side of that coin now becomes, he's actually a defense mechanism for himself down the long straight. Because Tyler Blackburn's picking up a whiff of toe off Ewan Baker. He's not kind of at a long enough range to get the double toe from Matt Morris. So right now, Ewan Baker's sort of getting supported by Matt Morris, even though he's going to finish second on the road. That is nearly a Carlos Sainz DRS train strategy going on there as well.
Yes, let's see how that works out as Mulford, meanwhile, down into 5th after his contact with Ty Delaney and trying to make up some extra time here. He's falling under a lot of pressure from Troy Stone Street and Michael Stewart. And if they battle hard, that'll bring an entire train of cars into the 4. They've got Scholes, Ritchie, Brazier, Lawrence, and Mahoney. Throw Ty Delaney in there as well. They can all take advantage if these guys battle too hard in the last couple of laps. And it is that last couple of laps where we start to see the gloves come off.
Connor Nixon's still back in amongst the mix of things as well with a very damaged race car. So a little bit of repairs done on the safety cars brought him significantly back into the mix. Alex Newton's now doing okay. You can just see it. There's just so many walking wounded cars crawling around the track at the moment. And, that's a little bit of Watkins Glen, really. It's a lot narrower in a supercar than it looks. It might make for good GT3 racing, it might make for good IMSA racing, but these cars sort of don't like it. A lot of the teams tend to run basically just a Phillip Island set here, is because it's just so similar. So.
Yeah, smooth circuit with many fast corners and long straights. There goes Stone Street past Tim Mulford, got the move done, coming into the heel of the boot, and Michael Stewart fancies to go as well, but Mulford sticking it to the inside. He's letting Stone Street know he's not quite done with this position in the top 5. But there we go, there's the news from race control. Mulford's just gotten a 5-second penalty himself for the contact with Ty Delaney. Now, 5 seconds back from Mulford currently. That puts him just ahead of Damien Cairns, only by 100th or so, and it'll put him behind Cairns down in 15th place if the pace keeps up.
Yeah, let alone the battling that's going on and around him. He's about to get boxed around the ears as well, so He's got a lot of race management, and he needs to stay relatively close. Troy Stone Street's his defense. Stone Street's definitely a touch quite quicker at the moment, so it's now going to come down to Tim Mulford sort of trying to keep Michael Stewart at bay, because if Stewart gets close and he starts having to cover Stewart off, I think he's in trouble.
Mulford is very late on the brakes, isn't he? He's obviously not in fuel-saving mode anymore, and he's trying his best to dive at every opportunity. It is the toe of the boot where he's been making up the most time, and unfortunately, okay, catching Madison's wall there, exit compromised, and around the outside will go Michael Stewart. Beautiful opportunistic move there from Stewart. It is that wall coming out of turn 3 that catches so many drivers out around here, especially in these cars. You know, it's a 1,500 kilogram understeer machine when you get to that crest.
Oh, it is. You're just on the gas here. You're aware that you're going to understeer all the way up to that wall. You're confident that that's going to happen just about every single lap. And yet the drivers just want to stay in that gas. They don't want to yield. They don't want to lift out. Now think about Tim Mulford. Now that 5 seconds drops him even more spots in terms of things as well. He's now more vulnerable. And have a look at Skulls, who's right underneath his rear wing. Then we transition back up front. And Matt Morris is not far enough away. Right now, he's going to fall to 7th place if he gets this penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be... Yeah, he is. He's trying to keep them all behind, but I mean, it seems like he's burnt through his tires now. He's lost all of that pace, and now Blackburn and Baker have a solid chance at finishing ahead of him on the road. Coming up to the white flag here, we will have 1 lap to go at Watkins Glen in V8SCOPS Split 2. Problems further back for Justin McLean. He's just dropped about 5 spots. Potentially a bit of contact putting him to the back of a pack, but we'll keep our eyes here on the battle for the race lead. Remember, it is a 5-second penalty in store for the 966 at the front of this field. At the moment, that 5 seconds will put him back into 6th spot, just ahead of Tim Mulford. However, if his pace is as bad as it seems to be, he might finish even further back.
Yeah, but have a look at Blackburn. Blackburn's having a go. We know this is for the race win now in terms of second split. There's a huge opportunity for him to get the race win, not necessarily on the road. Now he's running out of time. Now there's contact!
That's the number 600 there, or the 800 of Matthew Skulls. Trying his best to consolidate here versus Andrew Ritchie, but a bit of a bump coming into the heel of the boot gives the opportunity for Jay Brazier to move up the inside. Brazier trying to get further into the top 10 and protect that top 10 position from Stefan Lawrence. Coming up to the final few corners now for our race leaders. Lap car ahead shouldn't be much of a factor. It's Benjamin Smith who's up ahead of them right now. Easy does it. Big exit there from Ewan Baker. Morris will go defensive coming into the 3rd last corner here. Is there anything that Ewan Baker and Tyler Blackburn can do? Blackburn needs to take advantage if there's a problem in the last couple of corners. Here we go then, back on the power, use all of the curb, try and dive up the inside into the final corner, not quite. Matt Morris is going to cross the line in 1st place, but the penalty for him means Ewan Baker is your winner for V8SCOPS Split 2. Tyler Blackburn gets back onto the podium after being hit off early on, and Chris Miller will join them in top split.
Yeah, good opportunity for Chris Miller. It's still not done deeper in the field as well. Everyone's swerving all over the road, trying to find a little bit of clear run. Does Kirby get him at the line? Don't think he does. I think that should go the way of Brian Borg, and it does. By get this, 0.003 of a second. That's what that looked like in real time.
Brian Borg finishes in 18th place, which is going to sting starting from 6th spot. But Ewan Baker celebrating a Split 2 race victory here. Fantastic stuff. Interestingly, the amount that the top 3 slowed up on the last lap, it means that ultimately Matt Morris is going to finish in 9th place. Matthew Skulls finished 4.93 seconds behind him.
Very tight. Very, very tight. It was just incredible across that final couple of laps. And Ewan Baker, after multiple attempts, geez, he's been in the wars of late. He's just not had a good run. Finally, a little bit of luck goes his way.
Yeah, he'll be very happy, will Ewan. the Scot in New Zealand. He will take the win in Split 2 with Blackburn and Miller joining him on the podium. Troy Stonestreet will get a 4th place for his troubles. Stewart getting a top 5. Tim Mulford, remember, also has a 5-second penalty. That will put him down into 14th place. So I think ultimately, with all of that working out, it means Matt Morris is going to finish in 8th, with Andrew Ritchie up ahead. Scholes and Lawrence will round out the top 10 on track, though.
Yeah, then we'll throw it back to Jay Brazier. This is where the real fun was. Brazier from Ty Delaney. For Joe Mahoney, Delaney will think, that was an opportunity for a podium here tonight. Stovald from Connor Nixon, deep in the field with damage. Damien Cairns, Alex Newton, Brian Borg, David Kirby. We still had a torrid night at the office. And Andrew Fraser's return to the car does not go the way he wanted.
Scott McKenzie finishes in 21st, ahead of Steve Vella only by a 10th and a bit. Justin McLean and Benjamin Smith, the last finishers on the lead lap. Vincent Skilbeck a lap down, Rick Sebra 2 laps down, and then we get into big damage and or retirement territory. Logan Barnett ended the race on his roof. Scotty Van Loon got repairs done, but 9 laps down for his troubles. Jason Fewens had a very rough race. Zach McDonald 10 laps down, and a license point penalty for his contact with Logan Barnett under safety car. Brock Mottershead also retiring from the race, as does James Chastaneuf. Oh lordy, what a way to start the night here at Watkins Glen. Ridiculous runnings here, but of course the night is far from over. We've got Split 1 action coming up very shortly. When we come back, we'll likely have a chat with our Split 2 winner, and we'll get on to Split 1 action here. Reese Gardner and Scott Rankin with you in the comms box. Jay Kennedy on production with SimSpeed TV. This is V8SCOPS from Watkins Glen.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, round 3 of the 2024 V8SCOPS season here at Watkins Glen International. It's a classic track for a reason, and we saw that once more in Split 2. What a race that was. Plenty of drama, plenty of hard racing. I can't wait to see how things work out here in Split 1. I'm Reese Gardner. Joining me in the comms box is, of course, Scott Rankin. Jay Kennedy is making everything happen behind the scenes here. Oh, Scott, what does this teach us, this very interesting goings-on in Split 2? We've got a much longer race in Split 1 with 2 compulsory pit stops, but I think what I'm getting away from Split 2 is, doesn't matter what layout you're running at Watkins Glen, it goes crazy.
It does. It goes crazy very, very quickly. Opportunity for a safety car does continue deep into the race, which is something that probably a lot of other circuits don't necessarily have. Like if you think of Phillip Island, the opportunity for a safety car at Phillip Island actually diminishes significantly after sort of those first 10 laps or so. There's sort of nothing that's really in the offering, but with Watkins Glen and the walls everywhere. One of the big things though is history. This circuit has got so much history in it. We've been here how many times over the course of the simulations, and I've been sitting back and just listening to tales of Watkins Glen races gone past, and I've learned things about certain locations on the track that are linked in V8's lore in Australia. I think it's appropriate to call it lore at this point in time, because boy is there moments that happen everywhere around this track.
Yeah, it's a very long history, V8 racing on the iRacing service, and Watkins Glen has been there pretty much the whole time. We'll keep our eyes peeled on the field for Split 1, also how things stand coming into this third round of the championship. James Scott with a perfect score from the first 2 rounds. Of course, he hasn't won every individual race, but it is ultimately round points that count, and he's won both rounds so far. Dylan Rudd also for Lobs Esports. It's a 1-2 for them at the top of the field. Myers, Maloney and Down for TTR. Very close behind though. I love the competition in this series, and of course that big announcement of Lobs Esports a few months ago, Scott. They certainly have a fantastic roster of drivers, and they're showing why they got signed up.
Yeah, I mean, we knew the talent that they had, absolutely, and it's backing themselves. It showcased a lot of interest, a growing interest in the Australian sim racing platform, and I expect that to continue to grow. So, look, they've got the talent, they've got the ability. Now they need to start checking those championship boxes. What it does say, though, is about the pack that's chasing them down. Hey, we're quick. Hey, we're relevant. But the consistency's not 100% be there. And Trans-Tasman Racing pride themselves on their consistency over a season. If you talk to Madison Down, he's always thinking championship. That's one of the big things that's on his card. So, and then teams championship as well. Like, look at this and keep this in the back of your mind as well. This is still relevant. This is still about. This is a championship that the teams want to win. So, of course, there's some pride put in this one.
Indeed, Trans-Tasman Racing, with more cars in the top 5 in the standings, means that they have the margin over Lobs Esports, but only by 96 points there. So I think they're going to need a little bit more, our Lobs Esports here at Watkins Glen. to try and overcome that. It is 250 points, I believe, for a race win around here. Synergy Sim Racing still in third spot. I mean, it really is a who's who of Australian sim racing here. But remember, there's been a few big team changes in the last few weeks. Vermilion Motorsports absolutely ballooning out their driver roster, and it's largely at the expense of Altus Esports. Altus Australia still sitting in 7th spot in the standings, but Vermilion up to 9th spot now.
Yeah, so a good opportunity for Vermilion to start to close those gaps. That's the big key. That's what their focus is going to be this year. Is it's not necessarily about can we win the championship. First step is close the gap. Then let's start to apply pressure. We know Gilliam's incredibly quick. We know that Rick Kuznetsov, both of those guys absolutely have the ability. Look at how strong last time out at Phillip Island, Rick Kuznetsov was in the defensive race. He drove an absolute masterclass and was respected so much. That was one of my favorite defensive drives I've ever seen on the sim, bar none.
Yeah, mine too. It was fantastic to see. Well, we'll have to wait and see how the team standings look and the drivers' standings as well coming out of this round, because drivers are now in at the session, and it's a darn sight hotter than it was in Split 2. 43 degrees Celsius track temperature, low humidity, so the engines will be liking that. But hey, there's so much competition in this championship. I can't wait to see what the likes of James Scott can do from here. He's easily the class of the field this year. Gotta wait and see whether or not he can get that result on the board. Post-race investigation, meanwhile, for reckless driving for 91 of Ben Smith in Split 2. And unfortunately, looks like intentional contact between himself and Jamie Stovall. That is certainly some big drama to come out of Split 2, Scott.
Yeah, and for an admin team as well, that's really sort of difficult to make sure that you're on your game and you're checking everything over, because they've got another server to get to, right? Their focus is on, yep, let's close everything out from this first server, let's tick on. So things happening after the flag is not what they want to be backing up and having to deal with. Another important note as well is think about Ben Morris and his position in terms of the championship at the moment. Right now, he's on 29 license points. The first 2 rounds have just not gone his way. Very tough night at the office, and what that means is he's right on the edge of a round ban. So he has got to mind his P's and Q's tonight and just make sure that he's ticking along. Ultimately, we get to the tail end of the season, he's probably going to have to do that. That's just how racing goes, right? You'll find something, you get involved in it, you go for a gap, the gap closes, eventually you're going to get caught up in that, but he's really put himself on the back foot early.
Yeah, he has. So let's see if Ben Morris's driving is spick and span in this round of the championship. Plenty of drivers out on track at the moment. We're also seeing the likes of Ewan Baker joining the circuit. Also, Sho Kanatake for Phoenix Racing Team. That's a name that I've not seen in quite some time. Do believe that I've commentated a couple of races with Kanatake in them, but Phoenix Racing Team with another driver to bolster their already strong roster.
Think about Ewan Baker and an opportunity that because he was just shot through on Sho Kanatake at that point in time, and Ewan's got an opportunity here tonight. He's finally managed to make that jump up and across, and this is a really, really big opportunity for him. He's been lurking, he's been in and around it, and Ewan's one of those guys where he is very, very aggressive out on track, and I have had personal run-ins with him out on track. I'm okay with that. Somebody's got to be an aggressive driver. You talk to anyone up and down this field, you've got to be an aggressive driver to be right at the top end of things. There'll be some drivers a little bit more cautious, a little bit more concise, and those things. You get less opportunities when you make that sort of mindset and style of driving. Ewan has been aggressive. He's not afraid to bang doors with people. He's not afraid to put himself out there. One of the reasons he hasn't been successful thus far is that comes with risks. But I love seeing Ewan go out with it. Even if I don't agree with it, even if I haven't, had my best opportunities with racing alongside of him, someone's got to do that. You need someone to be aggressive, and I'm really interested to see how he goes tonight.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, I know Ewan Baker largely for his exploits in GT4s and touring cars, and also in the GR Butt Kicker Cup, which we broadcast on Thursday nights here on SimSpeed TV. We saw him have a nice few lobs at Winton a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, Scott? So, I think Ewan Baker in a V8, I'm still getting used to it, to be honest with you. I'm not used to seeing him in that Synergy Mustang. I usually am more used to seeing him in a Kiwi sim racing car, but Synergy know what they're doing. They're one of the longest standing teams in Australian sim racing, and they know who to pick. Meanwhile, Kenneth Latter, one of the drivers who was formerly of Synergy Sim Racing, moving to Fishing Motorsports some time ago, and he's had quite a bit of success this year. Finished on the podium in V8 Veterans on Thursday night, was in contention for the V8 Vets Championship last season, and he's certainly got a lot of pace under him.
What a dramatic moment that was too. And in the end, he did actually win that championship until he started his victory celebrations just a fraction too early. Remember, the circuit remains active up until the last car finishes their last lap and crosses the start-finish line. He started celebrating at turn 1 before the rest of the field had come through. He drifted slightly off track, picked up an incident point. That took him from a 0 incident point race in V8 Vets, which accrues a bonus point, which won him a title, to no longer winning that title. Michael Talianchich goes on to win that title. Michael Talianchich gets a golden ticket, which automatically qualifies him to Logitech Pro Invitational as well. That's the difference between the year for Ken Latter. He's been there, he's been consistent, he's been relatively quick, but he's just not been there all the time. So, tough season, I think, for Ken Latter, and the drama that surrounded that one. He was so annoyed with himself. Such a trivial mistake.
Yeah, indeed. Someone who doesn't make trivial mistakes is Kurt Stenberg, who celebrates his 173rd V8SCOPS race start tonight. Stenny has been there since the very start, all the way back in 2014. And he's got so much experience under his belt. He's a driver that you always see having a go, no matter where he is in the field. He's got plenty of pace. Has always been good in these cars. Can't wait to see where the 47 ends up this time.
I love Kurt Stenberg as a person as well. If you've ever gotten the opportunity to hang around him, he's full of energy, he's bright, he's intelligent, he's just got so much love for what we do, and he's just a lovely, lovely guy to be in and around. So I love hanging out with Kurt. I've got the opportunity to do that on a couple of occasions recently and just sit and chat away the night, and all of a sudden it's 3 a.m. and we're both well into the evening and well past our bedtimes.
Indeed, I've had the pleasure of meeting Stenny in real life on multiple occasions. He's a Perth boy like me, so we'll be very interested to see how he goes here. James Scott setting the fastest lap in this warm-up session before the 37-lap race to come. Scott makes his way into the pit lane. We should highlight once again, there's going to be 2 compulsory pit stops in this race, about a 200-kilometer run here for the single race in round 3. And that's an interesting time there from Zach Rattray White. That's a time that I was not expecting out of Zach. As we check out the format for tonight, no fuel restriction, of course, so drivers will be taking at least a little bit of fuel at both pit stops here. But once again, qualifying will be split into 2 groups, half each from the pre-qualifying standings. The drivers who qualified further down will get to run their laps first, and then the top drivers come out at the very end of the session. And I always love that qualifying format. Gives us a little bit extra to talk about, a little bit extra drama.
Yeah, but you made a really, really good point about Zach Rattray White. Remember what we were just talking about? I said, first opportunity, close that gap. Well, that's not just closing the gap. That's being right there and being right amongst it. Hot track tonight. Consider that and things. Does that mean that their setup more than switches on for that 1-lap pace? What does their long-run pace now look like? That'll be the real key. He's got to look after those tyres on the long run. Can he put the 1-lap pace together, put himself right up at the pointy end? I will say that within the Vermilion Motorsports, it's become a little bit of a meme. I class him out as this GT3 specialist. Well, he's really breaking that wide open now, and his surge in. And one of the key points about Zach Rattray White is every time you see him in a car, he's a step forward, he's a step forward, he's a step forward. Those steps They might only become a few centimeters at this point in time because that's how small the changes are, and that's the difference. But it's every single time. He keeps at this for another year, he's going to be in that top 5 every single race in the Supercar. I want to see another driver in that top 5.
Yeah, I do too. And who else but Zach Rattray-White, part of the Vermilion Esports squad, who, as we mentioned earlier, has rapidly expanded their driver lineup in the last few weeks and brought among them Andrew Gilliam, formerly of Altus Esports. I think Andrew Gilliam has brought a lot of setup knowledge and experience and potential coaching to the team as well. Of course, hopefully that doesn't happen to Zach Rattray-White in the race, but that's taking nothing away from the time he just set. I mean, honestly, that's some fantastic stuff there, and Vermilion on a bit of a meteoric rise right now. We'll see how long that continues for.
Well, one of the keys is how do you make yourself better? And I actually had this chat with Madison Down, right? And his way of thinking about it is, if you have a look at the best teams and who's been the best teams and who's been in and around them for a long while, you've got to have a lead driver that's just got a ton of pace, that brings somebody else with them. But at the same time, you've got to have somebody that challenges that comes to the table with a different skill set, because driving the car, being the best in the car, getting the most out of the car, you can't just drive it one way. You can't just lock yourself into one school of thought. You've got to be thinking and attempting to improve yourself and attempting new bits and pieces, because if you're just so one-minded, you'll miss something. That's just part and parcel of everything we do, realistically. So the good thing for Vermilion Motorsports is now they've got those drivers, they can test themselves, they've got the backing from the right people. I would be really, really curious to see what the partnership and what the level is with Jack Dillon. That's information we're never going to have, but that's something that really glitters about in the back edges of my mind is, what are they receiving from that partnership? Is that pulling them forward towards the front end of the field as well? And they're coming through the field. They're making changes. They're pushing themselves forwards. That's not a bad thing. That's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely is. It's always good to see more teams come to the fore and be near the front. Brenton Hobson, of course, another veteran of SCOPS competition, has raced for Synergy Sim Racing almost the entire time there. 160 starts will be celebrated for Mr. 6th place here tonight. Let's see if he can qualify any higher than 6th here at Watkins Glen. Certainly knows his way around this place.
Yeah, with that kind of an attitude, he's going to have to change his number to 66. 66. We know 666 is taken by Chris Miller, so, there's an opportunity there. He's so good. He's another guy that's so good to chat to and get in about sim racing. He's so helpful. If you've got questions, you want to learn bits and pieces about a whole bunch, Brenton Hobson's got time for you. And unfortunately for him, he hasn't got a lot of time, so you better make it a little bit snappy. He does so much in and around the sim racing world, and a lot of people really kind of have no idea what he does do behind the scenes. He's a man that's always willing to help out. So a lot of love for Hobbo, and sim racing's second best beard.
Yes, indeed. Who has the best?
Daiso. Andrew Daiso.
Damn, I thought I'd be on that list somewhere.
Well, you're probably on the list, but when you've got the quality of beards that we're very privileged to have the quality of beards in Australian sim racing that we do, Reese, and you're up against the best, my dude.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tight field, isn't it? I'll probably have to work out a partnership with a shaving brand potentially to get to get a bit of a leg up on the competition. We'll see. In any case, you're right about Hobbo. He does so much for the community. Helps to handle the back end for the Logitech Pro Invitational website as well. So he's certainly got a lot on his plate right now. The fact that he manages to find the time to race and still be fast is incredible in and of itself. Speaking of fast, Rayan Leonage, he celebrates his 40th V8SCOPS start here tonight, and that number might be small in comparison to the likes of Stenberg, Hobson, likes of Madison Down, and even James Scott up the front of the field. But Rayan has absolutely set the world on fire since he came into SCOPS a couple of years ago.
And again, another youngster, another guy that's really pushing himself, that's really challenging him. He's had the opportunity to surround himself with some big personalities, some big people. And if you have a look again, it comes back to what I was talking to Madison about on Monday night. Is you need someone that's going to push you and it's going to challenge you. And he's had such a strong support network around him. Now he's really that front runner for the Phoenix Racing team. The world sits here, the world watches at Rayhan Leonage, and he's just got such a strong family around him as well. Good opportunity here, as always. And everyone loves seeing Rayhan do well.
Yeah, I love seeing him do well as well. Let's see where he starts at the end of this split qualifying session that's getting ready to go right now. Positions 16 to 32 in pre-qualifying will make their way out onto the circuit now. And we'll keep our eyes out to see who gets the best run to the start-finish line to begin their laps. The top 3 from Split 2 will also be allowed to compete here. So, interesting to see where they place. At the moment, Andre Youssef, who joined Vermilion Esports from Altus Australia, is leading the train and touring around the circuit at a steady pace. Obviously, it's all about the draft here at Watkins Glen, so you want to try and find someone to partner up with.
Yeah, therein lies the difficulty, isn't it? Yeah, you've got to find somebody to partner up with, but who's it going to be? And the tricky part for Andre right now is that he's punching the hole in the air for Whiting and Delaney behind him. That's 2 teammates that are definitely working together. Gee, wouldn't it have been a night if Ty Delaney had gotten to top split alongside Dad? That would have been a moment to celebrate and a moment. But now, you know, they can work together and Ty can try and help out from behind the scenes. Jacob O'Reilly's attached that front group as well. So they've sort of mistimed it slightly for the Vermilion Motorsports guys, but then again, you know, he's pulling along Zach Flashbomb. Dylan O'Shea, I did not expect Dylan O'Shea to be in this group. His time in practice was good enough to be up there and in amongst it. So in terms of things, Dylan O'Shea should be a little bit further forward than that. He'll know that. Now's the opportunity to show that.
All right, gear up then for the first hot laps of the night. We're right on board with Andre Youssef here around a lap of Watkins Glen. We saw one in practice for Split 2 from Jamie Stovall. Now we'll see how the Split 1 drivers tackle it. Gear up. Keep up the momentum through the final corner and on the power. Make sure you don't hit the wall on the way out. Andre Youssef begins his lap here at Watkins Glen. Across the start-finish line, look for the 300 marker there on the left-hand side. That's roughly the braking point you want for turn 1. Carry a lot of speed. Banking, cambered, keep up the pace. Just launch yourself out of it and across the curbs. And then try your best to hold the throttle flat up through the S's. Catch the curb. Don't catch Madison's wall there on the right-hand side. Keep it nice and tight through turn 4. And then a moment to rest down the back stretch. Then the dip into the carousel. We don't get the bus stop on this layout. Youssef manages to position the car perfectly. Gentle line through the corner. On the power. You can take a lot out of the exit there, Scott. The curb nice and wide. Let's see if it works out for him as he comes into the boot section.
Now it's about precision. You've definitely got to be quick, but the biggest thing you've got to focus on through this next section is getting to that apex and getting to the apex at the right time. Look for the late apex here as you come through the toe. Then it's about the drive. The reason you're looking for that late apex, it's another long straight. Get the drive off. Build all the way through 5th gear. Get right up and on the limiter as you get here down to the heel. Brake, be nice and accurate, but carry the speed. Use all of that runoff space on the left-hand side. Don't touch the grass. That's going to cancel a lap for you. Now, again, be accurate. Be right in and on that curb, but don't touch it as you're trying to accelerate the car. Use all the road on the right-hand side as you come out of the boot. Then it's to the second last corner. You can't use all that vacant space on the right-hand side. You can use the curb. It unsettles the car, though, so you've got to be accurate with it. Get back to the left. Maybe just kind of touch the grass on the left-hand side, and then run it to the wall on the exit, and boy, that wall comes up fast before you get to the finish line.
1 minute 44.3 for Andre Youssef. That's not quite fast enough to take provisional pole. Blake Delaney, Zach Vlasblom, Dylan O'Shea, Blake Warboys all running faster. O'Shea already into the 1 minute 43 second bracket. And O'Shea, that's only 3/10 slower than James Scott's fastest time from practice. I think that's going to be one heck of a benchmark.
The key factor there for Dylan O'Shea is that's actually quicker than his practice time. And it's quicker by just about a 10. Quite close to it, but just about a 10. Really good lap time. Zach Flasbom was reasonably quick. He's quicker than a lot of the other drivers. But then, talk about your experience. Like you said, Kurt Stenberg, so many starts, knows how to do it, and the first step is qualifying. Can get a little nervous in qualifying. You get a banker that sets yourself all the way up at the pointy end of the field like that. All of a sudden, nerves calm down a bit, heart rate comes down, you feel confident, you feel relaxed. Now, okay, I can be a little bit more aggressive. I know that there's a line that gains me a half a tenth, but it's risky because the drive out, you get it maybe 2 times in 5. So now I can take that line. I can be a little bit more aggressive. I can slam that throttle just a little bit harder. I can push the boundaries because I've got such a good bank.
Absolutely. Well, 5 minutes have already passed in the first part of qualifying. It's a 15-minute first session and then 5-minute break. Then we bring out Group 2. So the drivers have 9 minutes and 30 seconds to get their next laps on the board. Of course, Watkins Glen boot, classic boot, a much longer layout than the one we usually run. The lap times are about 33 seconds longer than we usually see at this circuit. So the drivers have to plan for that. They would have only gotten 1 lap in the first 5 minutes. So maximum of 2 timed laps, I'm calling, in the remainder of the session.
Yeah, now it's timing. Think about, we've got 15 cars around on track, right, that are doing laps. There's still a couple cars that are on track that never actually set a lap time. Why is that? Curbing. Where is all that curbing coming in? Have you touched the grass somewhere? Did you not necessarily time that lap all that well? If you've got to try and reset. Adam Briggs had problems. 44.610. Not necessarily a great lap time. Did actually improve. So that says track conditions are a fraction better, a little bit more tow. Now you've got to make sure that you're getting yourself towards that front. You've got to be in this chain. And it's for the guys that push the air through. Have a look at where Dylan O'Shea sits in terms of pit lane. That's actually quite critical because now he knows he can go, oh, yep, who do I want to be with? Yusuf's on my left. Yusuf set a reasonably good lap time. I'm going to go with him. Yep, I'm actually comfortable with this. I don't need to push myself forward in the queue. But have a look at the number of cars he's going to get tow from. Dirty air around this place, Reese. High downforce for a lot of the track as well is actually somewhat relevant. So you want to tow, but you don't want too much of a tow.
Yeah, exactly. You'll want a car that that acts nicely in the slipstream. Of course, these cars are the previous generation of Australian touring car. They've moved on in terms of the regulations in the real world, but these guys still having to deal with these cars producing quite a bit of downforce for the type of car they are, which means aero push is a factor. Jamie Dyke is one of the drivers that has not set a time in the session thus far. Our split 2 pole sitter Tyler Blackburn also having no time on the board. Ewan Baker, Jacob O'Reilly and Brady Baldwin, who's at the head of the queue here, still yet to make their way around a full-timed lap of Watkins Glen. The track will be a little more rubbered in, and the track incidentally has actually dropped a degree Celsius since we started the session. So that could be the opportunity that the likes of Baldwin needs to put a time that's satisfactory on the board.
And the key factor there, Reese, is the tyres are nearly at the point of overheating at the end of the lap. So you've cooked them off. What that means is now the car's a little bit better. I wonder whether or not Brady would have wanted to lead the queue. Maybe he suffered from a lot of dirty air on that first lap, didn't quite get it set up. But the long and short of it is now he's going to be punching the hole in the air. Have a look at the guys that are behind him. Stenberg is in a really good spot, as is Sho Kanatake. So, you know, a number of drivers in reasonable positions in terms of where they are in the queue at this point in time. Tyson Broad's got a good opportunity here. He's in and around really sort of nicely paced guys. Dylan O'Shea's behind Andre Yusuf, but I think he's just a touch further back.
Well, Brady Baldwin's going to lead them away here on this lap. Baldwin with no slipstream benefit, but it's a long train of cars behind him who will all be getting a tiny bit of slipstream benefit. Baldwin makes his way through, and it's nice and clean on the run up to Carousel. Just behind him, Sho Kanatake keeping himself in draft range. Same for Stenberg. A bit of a problem behind for, looks like a drop bear car, Tyson Broad.
Tyson Broad.
Yeah, Tyson managing to get a good time on the board in the first part of the session, but won't have that opportunity this time as the first sector is now complete for these drivers. Baldwin's keeping it nice and clean. I feel like, though, he'd want someone to draft with at this stage.
At this stage in the lap race, he actually doesn't. He actually definitely wants all the downforce he can possibly do. So the sectors where all that downforce wasn't necessarily needed, and he wanted the straight line speed now in the rear view mirror. So this is where it'll be quite quick. But have a look at the cars in behind him. So that's the difficulty, isn't it? You know, you get this toe, but all of a sudden they're getting a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And Stenny's really quick on this lap. He's right up in behind Kanatake. So he's got a lot of pace. I wonder whether Kanatake's not necessarily got a great lap together.
Yeah, I got a 1-2. Well, we'll keep an eye here on the number 7. Baldwin into the final corner now, and you do see that Kanatake has fallen back a bit into the clutches of Kurt Stenberg. Baldwin's first time on the board now, and it will be a 144.4 down to 14th place. Stenberg improves to provisional second. Luke Mitchinson, oh my god, Yusuf, have a look at that. That's a good time there from the Vermilion Esports driver. Baker will get across the line, and looks to me like he's put himself into 18th spot. So the drivers that didn't set times early on, I think having some issues here, getting their first laps onto the board in a way they're happy with.
Did Dylan O'Shea just improve that lap time as well? I think he did. So he's absolutely got pace. And have a look at the times come down. That second run, much quicker. That track temp, if we can get another look at it, I think it's actually come down. We talked about it's come down 1 degree. I think it's actually come down another degree again. So this track is improving.
Yeah, it is. And I think maybe you'd be wanting to be a bit off sync to everyone else, because there's only 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the session. It's going to be tough for drivers to make their way back out and start another lap before the time hits 0.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, you got to have a go, don't you? It's nearly the case where this next time by, get the fuel in, get the tires on, go. And you've sort of got to run it maybe at 10-15% faster than you would have. The problem is, if you're in a hole here, get the lap in. That's the key.
Bit of a slide for... Yeah, easy does it for Andre Yusuf. That's something you might see a couple of times in the race, overcooking the rears and making your way out of the toe of the boot. Everyone making their way into the pits now. Make sure that you don't get any damage, because what you'll want to do is jump straight into your box, bolt on a fresh set of rubber, do a bit of a splash and dash and get right back out there. 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go until session 1 of qualifying ends. Yeah, you just got to go. You've got to cross the line to start your lap before 20 minutes remaining in the session. If you fail to do that, then you won't be able to complete your lap.
So what have we got? We've got effectively 30 seconds in left over. If you know 143, maybe a touch more than that, maybe about 40 seconds is sort of the delta that you've got on that lap. So you've got to run a 2-minute 20 lap time now, and now we're dropping through the time. Now it gets even worse. Now we're down to a 2:15. It's sort of going to be to get this lap in. So you can't hold back, and the track's improving. So the problem with that is if the track's improving, you've got to try and get this lap in. So you have to run this. This lap has got to be at speed. This is now, have a look at the pace. This is the quickest out lap that we've had so far. But you've still got to have a drafting partner, and you've still got to have a car to do it with. So you're running, you're at so much risk. If I was at the front end of pit lane like Dylan O'Shea, in out straight away. I wouldn't have waited for a toe.
Yeah, well, he's wasting no time making his way past people down the back straight here. You're going to see him coming through here on the inside of Tyson Broad.
He wants Broad to go.
Yeah. Oh, what do you do if you're Dylan O'Shea? It looks like he's had to make the decision there.
He wants Tyson Broad to go, and the problem is, think of this from a Monza perspective in terms of Formula One. That's the closest that you kind of get. No one wants to lead, everyone wants to toe, but at the same time, you got to get the lap in. So it doesn't matter if you are going to end up being the lead, because the track's improving. So you got to get the lap in, which means you've just got to go. And they're running so hard on time. they've got 50 seconds to get back to the line. So they're you know, a little bit further through the lap than they would have potentially have liked, which is good. That's really, really good news. The bad news is, you know, now you got to sort of find that draft and figure it out. The Vermilion boys at the front end of this pack, they're going to have the best tyres to set this lap. Yusuf's punching the hole. Jacob O'Reilly's got a huge opportunity, but have a look at Yusuf's lap time. The track's come up in temperature, sorry. The grip's got away again fractionally, and I mean fractionally, but that will affect this lap time race.
Yeah, it might only be a matter of hundredths, but every little bit of time matters as Yusuf crosses the line. 15 seconds to go. This is going to be tough for drivers at the rear of this pack. It looks like Kurt Stenberg is at the rear. Yeah, he'll only just get it in. So, now it's crunch time. You have to nail every single apex.
They all got it, Reese. I don't believe it. If this was Formula One, and Stenberg crossed that line with about 2:01.00. So he had 1 second, realistically, on that timer before he crossed the line. They are all going to get this lap in. This will count.
All right, so now we keep our eyes on Dylan O'Shea to see if he can improve on the time he set at the front of the field. The Vermilion Esports pair of Yusuf and O'Reilly helping each other out in the slipstream. Let's see if O'Reilly has the pace he needs. He's drawing a bit close to Yusuf, and O'Shea is closing in as well. He might get to the point now here through the boot section where he's a bit compromised. Yusuf pulls out.
Yeah, so Yusuf's lap was compromised. Now remember what I said, he got the toe through all the critical sections. The other side of this now applies as well. Now he's got the downforce on the front end of the car for the end of this lap. But O'Shea is supremely quick. This is such a unique situation in terms of qualifying. They're all having to go, they're all having to squabble. I think O'Shea might improve on this lap.
Yeah, he's certainly got the double draft off the Vermilion pair, and he's got a nice straight exit there out of the heel of the boot. Will he be able to gear it up through the final couple of corners here on this very intense lap? The corners don't come very quickly at Watkins Glen, but when they do, you have to nail them. More curb for Dylan O'Shea than Jacob O'Reilly, and he'll stick close to the end of the Vermilion Esports 222. So they make their way to the line, almost getting into the wall. Let's see what the times are like then. O'Shea across the line. Is it an improvement from him? That's the question.
Oh, he missed it by 8 thousandths. But I'll tell you what, Adam Briggs with a stonker, an absolute stonker.
Stenberg!
My word.
Kurt Stenberg right at the rear of the train. That's exactly where you want it to be, right?
Oh, yeah, but at the same time, it's a risk. It's a huge risk because if the other guys don't go, when we saw that, he had less than a second, so he timed that to perfection and got enough of a toe. My word.
Look at that. The top four, even top five, covered by just over 1/10 of a second there at the end. O'Shea, Stenberg, Briggs, Yusuf, and Mitchinson. They will be very happy with that. Vlasblom managing to make his way into 6th. Delaney and Latta, as well as Whiting, will be happy with Fishy Motorsports getting 3 cars into the provisional top 10. Kanatake just missing out on getting into that provisional top 10 there. The likes of Baldwin, Miller, Blackburn, Baker, Justin Wallace as well would have been hoping for a little better from that. Ewan Baker, his first time in V8SCOPS Split 1 as a solo driver, so 20th is certainly nothing to sneeze at. At least he got a time on the board.
My word, and now it's sort of an expression session, a little bit of fun on the way back to pit lane. I can tell you Dylan O'Shea's lighting up. He's happy with that lap. That last lap, by the way, for Dylan O'Shea, whilst he didn't improve, guess how far off his previous lap he was? Go on, have a guess. Throw a number.
I can see it on the times here. Actually, it's just gone for me, unfortunately. He's just showing up as pit on my timing. I'm going to call it, that looks like just under 100th.
8 thousandths of a second worse on that final lap.
Wow.
So how's that for consistency?
Yeah, very consistent is Dylan O'Shea, and you got to wonder if he had a little bit more space to the Vermilion pair ahead of him, might he have actually improved on the time? We'll never know, but regardless, O'Shea should be very proud of that lap that he's put down. You know, O'Shea's always been a driver that in terms of one lap pace, he's probably on the verge of being one of the best out there. His racing, of course, has its critics, but hey, if he starts from that far up the field, maybe he'll be able to make good. And potentially get a podium out of this, we'll have to wait and see. But the top part of the field is now waiting for the call from race control to get things going here. Just a few seconds remaining.
I got an update just come to me from. I just reached out to Stenny and just say, hey, great lap. You know, I was saying, you know, he's good guy to be in and around. He lost 2/10 to being held up.
Oh.
So that would have been pole.
Dang. All right. Well, regardless, Stenberg will have drivers in front of him to draft off in the race. That'll certainly be a boon to his potential round 3 points. The track temperature falling back down again to 41 degrees Celsius. There's a lull in the action here as we wait for the call to the green flag for Group 2. And they'll be looking to gain every 10th possible, every 100th, every 1,000th. And the cooler the track is, the more potential there is. Green flag flies for Q2, positions 1 to 15 in pre-qualifying.
There was no activity at the pit lane exit. Everyone was sitting in their stalls. Normally they're storming, they're trying to get in. And we just saw how critical it was to get this first lap in as quickly as possible. Everyone's sitting around and waiting. Dylan Pereira, Bro Albert were right at the end of the pit lane. They had the first couple stalls in terms of where they're placed in the pit lane towards the pit lane exit. And didn't go.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a lot more chilled out here in Group 2 when you think that it would be the inverse. I know that Dylan Rudd slowed down in pit lane to let Luke Rosella by. Of course, Rosella and Rudd part of Lobs Esports, so they want as much of an advantage as they can get. Interestingly, James Scott has a couple of cars in between him and his teammates, Sebastian Flock, Lachlan Capel, and Robert Gibbs, the ERT trio, but seems like James Scott's wasting no time getting past them. Now we're starting to see the team games happening. We're seeing teams split off into their own little groups here, all trying to help each other out.
Yeah, now it's timing, now it's setup, now who are you around, where are you positioned, is it the right car that you want to be around, are you around cars that you're good enough with, and to be fair, once you're into this top 16, the lap times are so close together, you're pretty confident that just about everyone's going to be right there and right on your pace, so, you know, there is that argument. It's going to be a tough one, I think, this session. You got to line yourself up in the right spots, and there is actually one car not attached to the train, and that's Tom Freer.
That's interesting. Tom Freer, usually a driver I would expect to be in and amongst the pack, but maybe he was a bit late on the call. Well, first laps will begin here. The 117 of Zach Rattray White all on his own, trying to get a banker in here and maybe then slipstream with his teammates on the second run. We'll have to wait and see on that. Let's see how he does with no slipstream benefit. The rest of the group has just started crossing the finish line to begin their laps, and it is the teammates of Paul Young and Ben Morris at the front of that train.
Yeah, I'm curious about this approach from Zach Rattray. He got down to the pit lane exit nice and early, and he was prepped and in position, and then just no one went with him. I think he was expecting a couple of cars to go with him. The problem is, he's now 17 seconds ahead of the next car. So he's got a long time to wait after this next stop if he wants to tow. But you're right. I think this is an opportunity for him to get his lap together and put his bank. Oh, that's going to hurt the tyres.
A little bit of rotation doesn't always hurt, but it might just in an Australian touring car through the boot section at Watkins Glen. Keep an eye out on the time at the end of the lap. This will be the judge of just how quick drivers are without a slipstream. We saw that Rattray White was very quick in practice, getting up to second place for a period before falling to 5th overall in warm-up. Last couple of corners coming up now for him. And this has been a pretty tidy lap aside from that slide that we saw. He had to have a couple of goes at the heel of the boot as well. But end of the lap comes for Zach Rattray White. What is this time going to be? 143.8 for Dylan O'Shea. It's a 144.1 for Rattray White. That's down in 16th at the moment. He needs a draft if he wants any hope of getting further up the field.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that lap from him. I think he turned in a fraction early at the last corner as well. He took a chunk of curb on the inside, didn't really flow the car nicely. I think he had to be a lot more balanced with the throttle than he would have liked. So there's probably half a tenth there. The slides probably cost him another tenth minimum in terms of that, let alone the lack of grip in the back half of the lap. Rear end really hot and up. So when you say at 144.1, you're sitting there going, yeah, there's probably 2.5 tenths in that lap there, which puts him right up at the pointy end. So when you keep that in consideration, there is a big lap there for Zach Rattray-White. He's just now got to piece it together.
Tom Free is going to abandon that first hot lap. He was just too far off the back of the pack. And speaking of the pack, all those times have just flowed in. James Scott, provisional pole, but Jake Maloney for Trans-Tasman Racing putting himself into second and splitting the Lobs Esports drivers. Sebastian Flock had a great lap too, making his way up into fourth. Only
1,000th of a second behind Dylan O'Shea, by the way.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Oh, wow.
Less than 1,000. It's into the 10,000s actually on that one.
Yeah, looks like it. Albert and Leonage round out the top 7 for the time being. So, of the drivers that are out on track right now, looking for improvement. No time being set in the first run for Lachlan Capel. Sorry, there have been times set, my apologies, for Capel, Rattray-White, Luca Rosella, Brenton Hobson, Paul Young, Ewan Baker, and Ben Morris, but they obviously either didn't have the full benefit of the slipstream or made mistakes over the course of the lap. Dylan Pereira and Robert Gibbs, no time. Same goes for Tom Freer, who is now waiting for everyone to come back into the pits and see if he can snatch a bit of slipstream.
Yeah, so now it's patience. I mean, we've seen it how many times now in terms of supercars qualifying. You get off cycle. All I can think of is Michael Taliancic on Wednesday night coming across a host of cars, and they were 3 wide. There was literally nowhere to go for him at Phillip Island, and that would effectively ruin his qualifying performance. But what do? That's, you caught the pack, you've got yourself out of sequence. So it's about being on sequence. Even when you're off sequence, the only time I would go off sequence and just go is if I'm at risk of not getting my lap in. And that's a point to keep in the back of your mind here as well. 8 minutes and 45 seconds. I think they're conveniently timed. I don't think they're a little bit less under time pressure, I think, here at the moment. But again, they're all jockeying around. No one's going.
Yeah, no one wants to be the first one out of the pits, but there has to be someone. And at the moment, it is Robbie Gibbs. I mean, he just wants to get a time on the board. But no help from his Evolution Racing team teammates this time around. Question is, does he pull over and wait for the rest of the field to come round, or does he prioritize getting a time on the board and the time left?
I mean, he can be patient, but really stopping on track during qualifying is not generally looked all that kindly upon. So it's go slowly, but go slowly appropriately. Paul Young and Ben Morris, the next 2 guys, and they're actually out a significant way off on their own as well. So this is about making sure they set representative lap times. Because if you have a look at them at the moment, 44.341 and 44.431, they're inside the top 16 in terms of pre-qualifying standings. So what that says, they've got the capability to at the front end. Whether or not I would say maybe the pre-quality track was a touch colder, a colder temperature setup might have worked quite well. Now the temperatures are up a little bit better, that there's not quite as much grip, that can't be quite as accurate. Maybe there's something in that, so. But they're a long way off the pace and probably not happy with that. Luke Rosella's another one who's deep in the field after that one lap as well, 44.1. And if we take you back to the first 16 drivers that are out here on track at 44.1, you go, yeah, actually, that's quite a good lap. Not so when we get the fast 16, shall we say, out there.
Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of pace available for these drivers at the top. And yeah, I saw that happen on my end. Robbie Gibbs slowing down and letting Morris and Young by. He's got draft partners now, and he'll be looking to get the best time possible from this. This will be very interesting. How far up the field can Robbie Gibbs get? Ben Morris having to improve on a 144.4. Is currently last of the drivers that have set a time, but he doesn't have a drafting partner himself. Paul Young may be a little far back, down in 30th place. Let's see if Robbie Gibbs doesn't get compromised here.
Yeah, this will be tricky. He's got to manage this one, but this is his best opportunity if he's going to get a good lap in. And this is a lap that is somewhat under pressure, obviously, without having that time together. But at the same time, if this lap doesn't go down, he only has one more opportunity. So this lap for Robbie Gibbs is more critical, I think, than the next lap, because this takes pressure off.
Yeah, indeed it does. as long as you can get a banker on board and you have a slipstream, you know what you're capable of, then, you know, the final run, if you can get around to it, is certainly going to have a lot more potential in it. So, the rest of the field is now on the back stretch. James Scott now leading the train, with Dylan Rudd in tow, as well as Luke Rosella. And the further back you go, the closer the gaps are. Tom Freer has actually played it perfectly. He's right at the rear of the train and catching a bit of slipstream off Jake Maloney. But I've just noticed that Tom Freer's run a bit wide in the carousel. So I think this will be a qualifying session to forget for Tom Freer if it doesn't go his way. Gibbs hasn't quite been able to keep up with Morrison Young either.
And, well, I mean, he's doing okay, but it's not grand, and that's the key. It's got to be a grand lap, I think, right now, because, yeah, you can probably stick a banker in, and you'll look at it and you go, oh, that's okay, now I can do the last one, but the last one's going to be under a time crunch, and you need the track to improve. The track's stalled. It's starting to go backwards a little bit. So those first laps might have actually been the best opportunity in terms of track conditions.
Well, Paul Young and Ben Morris will improve. Robert Gibbs gets up to 25th place. It's 20th now for Paul Young. We wait and see. Yep, we do indeed. What is the deal for everyone else?
So, Rattray White set his personal best in the first sector. Middle sector's reasonable, it's not too far off, but this last sector is currently looking stonking. This is going to be a really, really good lap here from Rattray White. What's he got for us?
That is the question. Gets up to 9th spot. Good job there, as Luke Rosella setting the position 1 time. I saw that happen in real time, but we were waiting for Rattray White to come across the line. Rosella 143.59. Rosella and Scott 1-2 for Lobs Esports at the front of this field. Dylan Rudd in 4th. This is quite significant.
I'll tell you what, by the way, on this lap back to the pit lane, no, sorry, it was the middle sector on that current lap. Luke Rosella just set the fastest sector time in that middle sector, and that's where a lot of his lap time came from. So he just went purple there. Now it's about timing. Look at the time. We've got 3 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. For these guys up the front end, they've now all got their bankers in, and they've been somewhat reasonable laps. But do you wait, or do you try and put a time in and roll out of the pit lane a lot earlier and just breathe it in, bring the tyre in nice and comfortably? Think about that, right? 1 minute 43 seconds for a flying lap. You've got to get to that pit lane exit, so you're looking at 2.5 minutes. Gives you a lot of time here, which that can't be understated. Have a look at the timer, and remember the next car we've got to look at is James Scott and his pit lane entry. When does he get into the pits? How long does he take in the pits? And when does he get out the other side?
Well, James Scott is making his way through the penultimate corner now. The crew of Young and Morris keeping their eye in here. I'll expect them to come straight back out. James Scott will re-enter the pits at 2 minutes and 47 seconds to go. He'll easily have enough time to get to the line from here.
I actually think, Reese, the guys at the back end of this queue, someone's going to miss out. Not everyone's going to get this lap in. I just can't see a world where everyone in this queue, there's going to be less time on the board when they get to the end of pit lane now than that first group had.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep an eye on who's at the rear of the train and how much pace they're having to compromise on the outlap, the final outlap. Is there anyone who's not going to be able to get another time in at the end of this session? Bo Albert pulls in, gets a fresh set of rubber on the car, more fuel, and out we go.
Oh, Tom Freer's the first. No one. They're going to struggle. They've got 15 seconds worth of banked up time effectively. Cut out turn 1. Yeah, maybe you've got 20 seconds. You get an extra 5 seconds to that in terms of where the pit lane exit is. You've got to go. And the track's gone a little bit again. It's stabilized and come back a fraction now. This lap is going to be no good. Oh, I don't think there's enough in this lap.
No, I don't think so either. Looks like Dylan Pereira is going to be the one on the cusp here at the very least. He just exited pit lane with 1 minute and 43 to go. Yeah, no matter how quick he goes, he's not going to be able to get the time in. Luke Rosella, who just took P1 in the last session, in the last run of laps, is all the way at the back of the train here. So he might not get a chance to improve either.
Yeah, have a look at the time now. Minute from here, minute and 15 seconds from here. Oh, you can get it in, but now they're checking up. Now everyone's sort of bobbling around all over the place. Everyone's arguing over real estate. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not. So
Rosella realizes. Look at Rosella. He knows.
yeah, he's trying to make up as much track position as he can, lose as little time as possible, but it's all going off here. His Lobs Esports teammates have got Zach Rattray White with them, and this is so frustrating. If you're right in the middle of this pack, if you're James Scott at the head of this pack, 40 seconds to go.
Look at the head pack. Look at the head pack. There's another pack up ahead of these guys, and they've all just run wide at coming off of the boot because no one wanted to lead. No one wanted to lead this one. And Freer was at the head of the chain. He went straight off the track. I don't want to lead this. 20 seconds now. 20 seconds. Oh, they might get it in, Reese.
They might. It's going to be borderline. Well, Freer is going to lead the way here. Again, no slipstream for Tom Freer. It's been an absolutely awful qualifying session for the 707. They make their way across. Here comes the second pack. James Scott will be fine. 3, 2, 1. Oh, easy does it.
I don't think those last two got the lap in.
No.
I think they just got the checker.
Yeah, Ben Morris losing it in turn 1. I think Brenton Hobson won't be able to get the time in either. Oh, that's such a shame for them. But now it's crunch time. This front 5 here, the Evolution Racing Team crew plus Tom Freer. Let's see if they make any improvements. Bo Albert a little bit wiggly on the way into the carousel. Sorry, that's Robbie Gibbs. My apologies.
Well, Gibbs has got a reasonable lap together, so he'd be okay with things as he currently stands, but he'd like to improve. Remember I said the track just went away a fraction right as we went to that lap. Well, it recovered again. The track came down just a fraction more, so there's not a huge deal of cloud cover in the air as it currently stands. The air temperature's up a little bit. The winds are actually down quite a lot here today. Southwest 6 kilometers an hour, 5 kilometers an hour. So the wind's quite stable, so there's not a lot of swirling. Remember Phillip Island? It was all over the place.
Yeah, it was. So the conditions not as effective on the behavior of the cars mid-corner at least. The checkered flag has flown, and this will be your final opportunity to consolidate your place onto the grid for round 3 of V8SCOPS 2024. Can Tom Freer beat his time? He's looking very unstable through the last few corners. Across the line they will come, 1:44.3 to beat, and unfortunately Freer doesn't get it. There's no improvement from anyone behind. Actually, Maloney and Capel will improve. Lachlan gets up to 15th. Rattray White, meanwhile. Oh my God, okay. That took me by surprise there. Maloney with a magnificent run to the line.
And he got a massive toe in that last sector. I wonder whether or not he made all his time up deep in the field right back there. Did Rosella just go back to the top? I think he did. Scott improved. No, sorry, my apologies. I was looking at old data.
All good, all good. But what I can say is Rayan Leonage with another massive improvement there, managing to work his way up to 4th on the final lap there, 1:43.67. God, the times are close here. What an intriguing qualifying session. The timer ticks down, and no one will be able to make it back to the pits under their own power here because the session is about to tick over. Everyone gets booted back to the garages. And it is time for the race. 37 laps, 2 compulsory pit stops coming up right now here on SimSpeed TV. Round 3 of V8SCOPS 2024. We'll have Jake Maloney for Trans-Tasman Racing starting on pole alongside Lobs Esports' Luke Rosella. Championship leader James Scott will start out of 3rd alongside Rayan Leonage. Fantastic qualifying result there for Phoenix Racing Team. Dylan Rudd, that's 3 Lobs Esports cars in the top 5. Zach Rattray White in 6th. Magnificent job there for the newly refreshed Vermilion Esports squad. Dylan Pereira will join his teammate at Phoenix Racing Team in the top 10. Dylan O'Shea, the first of our 9.5 SimSports cars, starting out of 8th. Sebastian Flock and Bo Albert, first 2 Evolution Racing Team machines, round out the top 10.
Yeah, we'll move over to row number 6. Kurt Stenberg, we saw that lap was stonking. Well, it was only good enough for just outside the top 10 in terms of letting everyone else through in the second half of qualifying. Off 11th for him, Briggs off and he's outside. Andre Youssef and Luke Mitchinson are going to be on the row immediately in behind these guys. And Youssef will be sitting there thinking, there was potentially a little bit more in that lap. Brenton Hobson and Lachlan Capel are going to be on row number 8 before we move it back to row number 9 for Zach Blashbaum and Blake Delaney. Delaney will be reasonably happy with that. And his teammate will be immediately in behind him. Ken Latter and Blake Warboy is rounding out your top 20.
Michael Whiting and Sho Kanatake are on the 11th row. Jacob O'Reilly in the Vermilion 222 starting alongside Jamie Machado in the Phase 4 machine. Paul Young and Tyson Broad 25th and 26th. Jamie Dyke will start out of 27th alongside Robbie Gibbs, who just couldn't get a draft, couldn't get a satisfactory lap in. Same goes for Brady Baldwin and Justin Wallace, who round out the top 30. Our third place finisher from Split 2, Chris Miller, starts alongside Ben Morris. And then we have Tyler Blackburn and Ewan Baker, our top 2 from the Split 2 race, starting on the 17th row ahead of Tom Freer. Sole car on the last row of the grid, could not get the slipstream once more. Nothing to be done.
Yeah, I was just having a quick look through the grip analysis of those laps as well, by the way, just to have a quick look at the analysis on those pole laps. And I can tell you, Jake Maloney was supremely slow in the final sector, but it was his front 2 sectors where he made all of that time. Luke Rosella was quite average throughout everything, but James Scott was a fraction better in terms of his average. If you have a look at positions and who had the best sector times in terms of up and down, his bad sector was just too far off. He was quickest in that last sector, though. So it was really interesting to have a look at all that. All of that gets thrown out the door now. Track temperature's starting to cool, Reese. 2 compulsory pit stops are relevant here. 37 laps. Pit strategy. It's either going to be a 12, 13, 12. You've got to do 13 laps on one of the stints there, but probably 12, 12, 13, 12, 13, 12, or 13, 12, 12. Those are the preferred options.
They are indeed. Preferred option is also to get the best standing start here as the revs rise. It's Maloney versus Rosella on the front row. Round 3 of V8SCOPS is go, and it is a terrible start from Zach Rattray White. He will immediately fall outside the top 10 on the way into turn 1. He'll try and defend here from the Synergy cars behind. He manages to hold on to that top 10 spot. It's Luke Rosella who will not lead the way here for the time being. Jake Maloney still in front, but for how long? Will the Lobs Esports cars be immediately on the attack?
Now have a look at Sebastian Flock's got a good opportunity here. Bo Albert sitting in a reasonably good spot. And here comes the blocks on lap number 1. Everyone's getting the elbows out early. Track position's key, but so is fuel saving.
It is indeed. Rosella lifted out quite early. He didn't want to get into the lead. He wants to try and take his teammates with him. Rayhan Leonard still holding on to 4th here. He's defensive now versus Dylan Rudd. Got to keep an eye out for Dylan O'Shea as well. The 9.5 Sim Sports number 19 is known to be aggressive during races. Keep an eye out in the midfield as well. Andre Youssef defending from Kurt Stenberg, and Youssef almost cleaning up Adam Briggs on the inside there. Kenneth Latter fighting hard with Blake Delaney. The 2 Fishy Motorsports cars side by side on the way through there. Gently does it on your way into the heel of the boot. This is one of the crunch points.
And I was just looking at Andre Youssef was actually blocking from Kurt Stenberg, and Stenberg was a mile back, so he thinks he's vulnerable. That says to me, in this sector right here, and that says that the TTR cars are good in this final sector. It means they've probably got a touch more downforce on, and Stenny's got to the inside. Love me a good Stenny send.
Yeah, it doesn't work out that time, though. Youssef gets the power down and consolidates. But Stenny will have plenty of chances. Lap 1 is complete here. Oh, my Lord. Synergy Commodore going very wide there. Brenton Hobson losing out potentially to Lachlan Capel. He's going to defend into turn 1. Keeps the position, but goodness me, already burning through the rears for Hobbo 88.
Yeah, and he'll be aware of that. Now you got to look after that. And I'll rephrase that. I don't love a good Stenny send. I love a good Sendberg, and he's going to get an opportunity to use it just to play with the barriers. And
Andre Youssef getting into the Armco here, and Stenberg is going to flit on by, coming into Carousel, clears him by the time they get to the braking zone, and Youssef now in a bit of trouble from Lachlan Capel. as Brenton Hobson runs wide. Someone's blown an engine. I think that's Robbie Gibbs. Robbie Gibbs is out. He's blown his engine on the way into Carousel. The downshift.
And he's just parked up on the side of the road, and she's smoking. She's blowing up. She's going to be over. Is there damage on that car, though? I don't know if that was a downshift, because that looks like there's damage.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing any damage on my end.
Oh, yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, he was just a bit too aggressive on the blip here. Look, he was trying to make his way past Delaney, and pop, there goes the engine.
It's not gone, but it's basically gone.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to get it back to the pits under its own power there, so he would have already requested a tow from race control. He's far enough off the racetrack that I don't think a safety car will be called for that. So they can play on, they can race. Gibbs is already back to the pits. Now it's on at the front again. Jake Maloney leading the way for Trans-Tasman Racing. Doesn't have an opportunity to save any fuel and shorten his compulsory pit stops. Luke Rosella and James Scott, the two Lobs Esports cars. Championship leader in third, trying to catch a slipstream off his teammate. Got to keep an eye out for Rayan Leonage behind as well. He's got the third Lobs Esports car of Dylan Rudd in hot pursuit.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting, because there's another side to this compulsory pit stop window, Reese, I haven't even talked about, is your fuel's not going to cover your tyres tonight. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. If somebody wants to have a send, that's an option that they can potentially do. But right now, you've got to be in the box seat. If you can save a significant amount of fuel, but when we talk back and we look at the stats that came out of Split 2, over about a 12-lap run, it was 0.8 of a second worth of fall-off. It's going to be different here, probably a little bit closer. Tyre fall-off maybe not quite as high, but it will be there, and it will be relevant to this race. And that draft is so key. This is going to be a long snake, and it's going to be a long snake for a very long period of time, because tonight's about strategy racing.
Yeah, exactly right. In previous years, Watkins Glen was the super speedway of V8SCOPS, especially when it ran sprint rounds, but this is a 200k single race, and it's all about making sure that you shorten those pit stops, have something more to play with at the end, and make sure that you have the right tyres on at the right time. End of lap 3 then, Maloney will still lead the way from Rosella and Scott. We're not seeing any big moves through the field. The snake is here, and it's not ready to bite just yet.
Better have the anti-venom on standby, I tell you what, because have a look at them. The top 10 are covered by nothing. There's absolutely nothing. It's like 2/10, 3/10 of a second all the way up and through. I think Rudd is trying to line up Leonage at this point in time, because he's right underneath that rear wing, so there's an opportunity for him to get past Leonage. He'll want to do that, so if there's an opportunity and Leonage starts to fuel save, starts to breathe that throttle just a little bit, he'll go for it. Have a look at the gap changes up ahead though. James Scott's right on the Rosella, then he lifts, big lift, big save. No, it's still saving, okay, not quite yet, but here comes Dylan. Tell you what, Dylan O'Shea is right up underneath Ruddy's rear wing as well. He had to go on the run in the bus stop. The bus stop, yeah, forget that, we don't run that.
The region of track next to the bus stop.
Yeah, that you know what I was talking about.
Yes. oh man. Yeah, I think O'Shea could be lining up a move shortly, but maybe he's just keeping an eye out here, because remember, Rudd and Leonage are running line astern. I think he's just positioning himself. He's poised, he's waiting to see what they all do. Pretty much everyone on the clutch on the braking zone there. They're using as little fuel as they can in the braking zones, which, you know, is an interesting strategy in these cars. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, that's Ewan Baker. That's gone off there. 3 wide coming into the heel of the boot, and he comes off third best.
Yep. And a long way out that fence. Now he's going to have to press on. Still not resolved. Have a look at Chris Miller having a go.
Yeah, Chris Miller trying to make up spots here. Manages to get it done on the 400 of Jamie Machado. This is how it all happened. Baker was at the front of this pack. Machado and Miller going for it there, and actually Miller made contact with Machado, and that sent him into Baker. So poor Ewan, nothing he could do about that.
Yeah, I think it's underinvestment. Obviously, Ewan's feeling quite aggrieved. You know, it's not his incident, somebody else's incident, and he's just wound up in it. Yeah, such is life. Good start to the race from Dylan O'Shea. Good start from Bo Albert. +2 for O'Shea, +3 for Bo Albert. Probably need to dig through the field and have a look at a few drivers. Blake Warboys has gained himself a couple spots. Capel's +2. Reasonable start, not amazing. But Zach Rattray White's lost 4 as well. The other driver, Luke Mitchinson, has gone from 14 to 11, so he's lurking outside there. But Tom Freer, 35th to 24th, +11. So he's had a reasonably good start.
Yeah, I think Freer has decided to turn up the aggression here in the early stages of the race. He might not be too worried about fuel saving, though he will be now with a long train of cars ahead of him. He was just trying to make up as much track position as he could before settling into the rhythm. You can tell how hard he's driving here. The amount of oversteer I was seeing through the right-hander there. Magnificent car control, as usual. But up behind the Phase 4 cars now, and that's quite the pack. He won't want to be slowed up too much here, side by side between Warboys and Vlasblom. Vlasblom gets the power down. This means Brenton Hobson might have a go at the number 63, has to fall back in line by the time they get to the second last corner. This is a huge battle for 16th place all the way down to 24th.
Hey Reese, did you know the number of cars you can get on the battle graphic is 21? Bet you didn't, but we might try and do that here.
Thanks, Jay. Oh, dear.
We tested that. Apparently we can go more than 21. I'll tell you what, Dan Yeaman's producing skills is limited to 21. We tested it at V8 Vets from Daytona, actually.
I see. Good place to test it, actually. Much like Watkins Glen, a slipstream-dependent circuit. On board with Brenton Hobson, who's trying to make up some time here. He's down 3 spots from where he started. Blake Warboy's up 3. He's going to make it +4 now with a run up the inside on Zach Vlasblom. Onto the brakes. Doesn't seem like they're clutching all that much. The door opens for Hobbo. Vlasblom trying to hold it round the outside. He'll be defensive now into the left-hander. Does Hobbo have anything in it to try and work this out? He doesn't. He could go for the over-under, but Vlasblom covers it. Now Kenneth Latta decides, hey, former teammate, I'd like to have a go at you.
And he's got a little bit of a wingman here, because Delaney will say, all right, well, I'm just going to watch. You have a go. If you can't get it done and your pace starts to fall off, then it'll be my turn. So that's the benefit of running teammates line of sight on a train like this. You can see Vlasblom's probably a little bit of a cork in the bottle here. Warboys has got pace. He's looking really, really strong in that WKMP entry. And Hobbo, I think Hobbo's going to have a crack. I don't think it's going to be too much longer. We saw Freer already have a go down into this corner right here as well. So on the previous lap when we started watching these cars, Tom Freer got a jump. Oh, no!
Kanatake. Oh, dear. That was massive. That's huge damage there to the Phoenix Racing team number 86.
Ah, that's a shame. That's a shame. He was in great spot as well.
Yeah, running solidly in the midfield behind all these guys. And what happened to him here? Oh, Tom Freer got into the back of him. He got sent into the Armco. Something fierce.
Well, you said Freer was being aggressive through the field. That's a little bit too much aggression. He overstepped the line there.
Yeah, I'm sure Race Control is going to be having a look at that. Kanatake, though, has made it back to the pits under his own power. He's going to get that damage repaired, but he'll be way off in terms of strategy. He'll probably want a safety car to get himself back in the running. Keep an eye out on the lead here. Maloney still holds on to it. There hasn't been much aggression from Rosella and Scott for the time being. I mean, pretty much everyone in the top 10. I mean, you could even go everyone in the top 15, back to Lachlan Capel and Andre Youssef. They're just in a holding pattern right now, aren't they? This is the middle of the first stint. They're waiting to see how much fuel they can save. It'll be post pit cycle number 1 that we start to see the big moves being made.
I tell you what, this I've talked about obviously my experience with NASCAR a fair bit tonight, because obviously went in America, went at the home course of road racing for NASCAR, and really what kicked off a revival of road course racing, in the last couple of years. We talk about NASCAR. But this reminds me of a NASCAR race, Reese, because everyone's just lined up, fuel saving off each other. No one wants to lead. It really, really is. The next feature of it is saving those tyres. You've got to save those tyres. You've got to give yourself rubber to work with at the back end of things. I can tell you right now, Vlasbom and Hobson, this was stewing. It was stewing, and Hobbo's going to get to the inside, gets the drive. He'll have a crack here.
He will indeed. Kenneth Ladder, though, with the slipstream on Zach Vlasblom. Can he find his way through at turn one? Vlasblom deep on the brakes, but he allows Hobbo and Ladder through on the exit. Blake Delaney now fancies a go. He's got to run on Ladder as well, but he's going to have to lift off here. Contact into the grass. Careful on the re-entry here for Zach Vlasblom. He gets back on track. That could have been a lot worse.
Oh, that was really well done. That is supreme amounts of car control. He could have ended so many cars as Knights right there, and he didn't. My word, what's done. And now have a look at them. 3 wide on the run down to the carousel. Do they all survive? Whiting to the inside. Free is ahead of them. Yeah, they'll all survive.
Love it. Freer gets on the power. Oh, that is very deep there from Delaney. He almost cleaned up Tom Freer there. Leaves the door open on the inside for Brady Baldwin, who's up 8 spots now. Could make it +9 if he works it out. There's the contact between Delaney and Vlasblom, and Delaney was compromised on the way through the S's. Fortunately for him, he hasn't lost out too much from that. A bit of time, yes, but not that many positions.
Yeah, Ken Ladder's doing actually quite okay out of all this, so he's now moving right up on the rear bumper of Hobson. So what triggered this for everyone that's sort of watching along and going, well, okay, why are we all of a sudden just exploded like that? Well, the key was, if you have a look at Blake Warboys, he's 16th. He's now caught onto that train up ahead. He's now fuel saving. He's now in a really, really good spot. And Hobbo and Ladder were lining up Vlasbom and lining him up. They just couldn't get it done. Well, here we go, another one.
Yeah, on the replay, Paul Young and Tyson Broad. And a side-by-side contact on the way into the boot section, and good on Paul Young keeping the car control up there, but probably called that one into race control as well. Excuse me. Took me by surprise there. Early pit stop from Paul Young and Ben Morris.
Interesting. So they're going, we need to undercut, we need to really aggressively have a go. And this is smart. I mean, they were boxed in, they were getting beat around the head, and times are starting to fall off. Stenberg's going to have a little bit of a go here. Maybe he's actually going to defend. This might be a defensive move, actually, because he's going to go side by side with the 04 car.
Gently does it. On the exit, Stenberg will have to give up the position here, I think. Inside is King, as Lachlan Capel decides to have a go at it too. Stenny, I think, might have burnt through his rear tyres here. He doesn't have much to fight with on the exits, but Capel's going to try and hold on here. Just enough room given. Stenny is working the wheel hard, and well, he loses out ultimately. Capel now chasing down Luke Mitchinson. I don't know if we're going to see any kind of run back here from Kurt Stenberg. I think he's just going to wait for those last couple of laps.
I think Seb Flock just had a moment. Yeah, Seb Flock was way out, so I reckon he might have been forced there because Zach Rattray White had to go. So Rattray White's grabbed another spot, I think, here. No, yeah, so he's grabbed one spot back. So was 10th, now up to 9th.
Yeah, and it looks like Flock did it on his own here. He was just too deep. There was no contact. He just ran really wide through the heel of the boot, and through went Zach Rattray White. So, Paul Young, Ben Morris and Jamie Machado pitting early. Machado, I think, potentially with some damage there. He pitted 2 laps ago. But Paul Young and Ben Morris with a bit of an alternate strategy to the rest of the field here. Let's see if it works out for the Phase 4 Motorsport cars. Everyone else trying to extend this first stint as much as they can.
Run as long as they possibly can. Somebody's got to do the opposite, right? Somebody's got to pull you and beat you and box you around and force you to respond. And they weren't in position to really do that. And we talked a couple laps ago about the cork in the bottle was Zach Flashbomb. And as soon as they got all by him, now they're starting to punch clear. Free is tagged on the back end of Ken Ladder and Brenton Hobson. And they're actually making a little bit of time, a little bit of inroads, and the cars are actually up ahead of them because they've all been squabbling for position at that point in time. Hobbo's going to be not in a great position in terms of fuel strategy, but now they've got through and they've given themselves an opportunity, and that was the key part of that one.
Well, Lachlan Capel now trying to find a way past Luke Mitchinson around the outside. He gets it done. Looks like Mitchinson is the next car to fall off the wagon in terms of pace. Stenberg taking a few corners to look after his tyres, having another go at getting the position back. It doesn't work out for him this time. We are now on lap 10, and in the next few laps, we'll see the leaders make their way down onto pit road. Is there anyone in this lead group who want to try something different and pit a little earlier?
I think if you're up at the front, no, absolutely not, because they're still in fuel conservation mode. They'll come down last pit stop. That'll be the one where they dive to the lane a little bit earlier. The other key is, I think this first stint is going to get extended quite massively. You're probably going to see some drivers run it out to about the halfway mark, and the reason for that, think about 18's 36, so it'll be 18/19. What they're trying to do there is they actually want to split their tyres. They'll do one pit stop where they do tyres, maybe one where they won't. They'll just take a flat splash. So it gives them that opportunity. Anyone that comes now is saying, yep, I'm going to take tyres at both pit stops. Going to be potentially the fastest race pace in terms of your actual laps, but you could theoretically lose some time on the pit lane.
Yeah. We'll keep those numbers in mind. We saw Tyler Blackburn jumping into the pits. He's put a fresh set of rubber on his car, and the next of a few drivers who have decided to take an early pit stop side by side. Meanwhile, between Dylan O'Shea and Bo Albert. Albert now having a go and trying to move forward before the pit stop cycle comes, but O'Shea better up the inside. Albert has to defend. Blackburn has come out ahead of Machado and Morris, crucially, but Paul Young still the leader of the cars to have pitted so far. Sho Kanatake has managed to get back out on track as well, but he spent quite some time in the pits, is way off the lead by to the tune of about 4 laps, I would say. Freer, meanwhile, making his way past Brenton Hobson. It's a trade between the two Synergy cars. Tom Freer on an absolute charge right now. He's now up 17 spots.
I'll tell you, I just went back and had a look at Paul Young. Paul Young's lap time in the last lap took 7/10 of a second out of our race leader, 9/10 of a second out of Luke Rosella, 8/10 of a second out of James Scott. It's just supreme in terms of lap. I mean, I like this from Rattray White. Again, you're still up here, you're still earning your stripes in terms of V8 Civic. The guy's got experience, he's got talent, he's improved over the last year, but he's earning his stripes up here. So why not have a crack? What's the guy that's out of sequence a little bit, that's still earning his respect from those that he's around? Why not have a crack on strategy? Ruffle some feathers, rattle some cages, do something different. He needs to do these sorts of strategies and just try something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Have a look at the benefit that Paul Young's gotten, meanwhile, over Jake Maloney. 7/10 faster than the leaders on the previous lap. Of course, the leaders will be right at the end of the usable stint for their tyres. Yep, another one coming in indeed. Yeah, all right. So now's about the time you'll want to look at pitting here. This is the first real critical lap, isn't it, that you highlighted before the race, Scott? Lap 12. Yeah, let's see if anyone decides to jump it way into the lane. We also saw pit stops from Justin Wallace, Jacob O'Reilly. Zach Blasblom has come out behind them. And aside from that, don't see anyone else aside from Rattray White, who has come into the lane. So Zach is now the leader of the cars who have pitted.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really critical. I think the key factor that we sort of got to keep half an eye on is probably those sector times. In terms of where their race laps are at this point in time, because Rattray White's going to have a slow first sector, but that middle sector is going to be so huge in terms of this lap time, and then that last sector as well. He's going to make a boatload of time as well. So, purple in the middle sector. My word, Zach Rattray White's got some pace.
Yeah, he's making use of those fresh tyres. We see the Synergy crew making their way into the lane then. Hobson, Baldwin and Freer. Chris Miller also in the lane. Tyson Broad for Drop Bear Motorsports. Rapidly falling out of the line and into the pits. Rattray White is going to make his way past all of them. I mean, even though he's on his own, even though he doesn't have a slipstream, that is some magnificent pace from Rattray White already.
Yeah, it is. The other key factor for me, for Zach Rattray White, is that the big factor that he's got here is free air, which means he can actually conserve, even though he's pressing on and setting purple sectors, purple lap times and those sorts of bits and pieces, he's in fresh air. So he can actually conserve the tyre. He's going to be burning through a boatload of fuel as he currently stands. But there's a lot more grip at the front end. There's a lot more bite there, which means the rear end sticks and the car rotates really nicely. You can be smoother with the throttle through the mid-corner because all of a sudden you've got that grip back on that. All that air flowing over that front splitter, generating that downforce. It just makes a difference in the car as a whole.
Indeed. Well, the 222 of Jacob O'Reilly now with Brenton Hobson and trying to make some moves on the cars that have just come out of the pits. Oh, Vlasblom. Looks like a bit of an issue there. Tyson Broad getting his way past. Oh, take it easy. This is one of the sections of the circuit where it's so easy to run wide and lose time. Our leaders have stayed out for another lap, but I saw someone pulling in off the back of the train there. It looks like Blake Warboys, Luke Mitchinson, Andre Youssef, Kenneth Latta, Blake Delaney, Michael Whiting, and Jamie Dyke. Everyone from 13th to 19th now in the lane.
So, by the way, fastest sector 2, fastest sector 3. So we went purple sector 2, purple sector 3. He's gone faster again, I think, in the middle sector on this lap is Zach Rattray White. He is on an absolute barnstormer. This is going to be fastest lap of the race, and this is at a critical point in this race. Critical segment.
It is. He's going to gain massively coming out of this one. Blake Delaney, meanwhile, a 5-second time penalty for contact with the number 57, but Rattray White, fastest lap of the race. Now, everyone up the front of the field will have noticed that. Yep.
1.4 seconds, Reese. And
That's
not only has
crazy.
he done that on this lap, but it was sector 2 and sector 3 on the previous lap. So add another probably an 0.8 of a second. He's just pulled 2 seconds out of this whole bunch. They're all slowing each other down because they're all fuel saving. So they aren't pushing on. They're not showing what their cards have got in store for them at the moment. And the longer they delay on this strategy, the better they are in fuel, the worse they are to Zach Rattray White. Rattray White will be so close to nicking the lead of this race right now. He'll be on the cusp.
Yeah, he will, but he's probably going to be paying for it later on. He'll be hoping that he has the pace benefit in this car to take that little bit of pain later on, a bit of a longer pit stop, etc. Everything that carries with it. So, to the final corner for the leaders again. They're continuing to extend this race out. None of them are coming in. This entire train from first all the way down to 12th. Rattray White currently in 14th, and a 1:44.8 is the time that he still holds on to. This has turned into such an intriguing race. We're almost at the halfway mark here, Scott, and we genuinely have no idea who's going to be the best placed.
Jamie Dyke just set the fastest sector 2 time. So the track's improving as well. Track's come down about 1.5–2 degrees since race start. So the track is continuing to improve. Everything's sort of improving at this point in time. Why are they still waiting? There's something we're missing. Something we're missing, Reese. Unless it's like I said earlier, and it is going to be a one stop for tyres, one stop without tyres kind of race.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're going for. You never know. Be interesting. Oh, yeah. Wow, 1:44.5. So, honestly, the leaders have to pit now. They can't afford to be losing this track position. If a safety car comes out, then they're at a big disadvantage.
Yeah, because the rest of the field can get their second stop in. I can't tell you what the actual window is tonight. I don't actually have those numbers on me on hand at the moment to get home, but we've got to be close. We've got to be super close. Remember, 2 compulsory pit stops. 2. Got to tick 2 off somewhere. The guys have already pit number 1 in the book, and you can't run. It's just taking huge amounts of risk. Huge risk.
All right, let's keep our eyes trained on the cars up the front of the field here. Maloney staying out more, but finally we have someone trying something different. Rehan Leonage, Bo Albert, we got Dylan Pereira, Sebastian Flock, and Lachlan Capel all in the lane here. That's good. I like this from these guys. They're trying something different to the rest of the leaders. Let's see how much they gain here with a tyre undercut.
critical in terms of your pit stops. Zach Rattray White was 11 seconds stopped in the box. So we've got to keep an eye on Leonage and see how long he stops for. That will be very relevant. He's almost got one of the last stalls. 4th place in qualifying, right down the back end of the pit stop. Where are they in terms of track? Well, I think Rattray White's going to clear him comfortably.
Yeah, Rattray White moves, absolutely blitzing them. He's already a second ahead on the way out of pit lane. There they go. But now remember, Leonage and company will have the slightly better tyres. They'll have a little bit more to fight with. I would expect Leonage to put down some fast times here and catch up to Rattray White in due course.
Oh, now we've got a tantalising race. How long do they go? Do they continue on? Why not? I mean, you know, the difficulty is, right, we've got that long train of cars. Pit stops break it up. They see and they saw. They come apart and then back together now after this pit cycle. But whilst ever this train is together, they're all in a reasonably good state. Now there's holes in that train. Now the pace comes up. The pace goes down in different sections of the train. They're all in. For me, Reece, they're all in this lap because I can't stay another lap out on these tyres.
Yeah, they're just losing too much pace now. They've eked out as much fuel as they can. They've extended the stint as far as they can go. They have to come in now. And, yep, no surprise to see they are all in here. That is a big gain that Luke Rosella just made on the way into pit road. And Dylan O'Shea almost getting into the back of Dylan Rudd as well. So, Zach Rattray White here about to make his way through the penultimate corners. Rehan Leonage has already caught up to him. This is going to be a very interesting fight here on the exit of the pits. We're expecting Rattray White to come out in the race lead, but it might be a bit closer than we expect. Oh, Dylan Rudd just overshot his pit box. That's going to cost him some time. He'll be at the back of the train now. Yeah, and he had track position coming into that as well. They're all rolling. It's tight. You're right. Rattray White's got the lead. Leonage is going to supremely just pass him. He's going to disappear past him this time by. Where does Maloney pop out? Now they've got to feed in. Have a look at Oh no! Bo Albert recovering. Fantastic stuff. But that's the effective race lead lost there for Jake Maloney. Luke Rosella is now in the box seat.
Well, now, who's got the advantage? You know, coming that one lap earlier, Leonage has got a huge margin here because now they've all got to line up and try and get past Zach Rattray White. But if Leonage can pull him along, they're out of the tow. They've broken the tow of the cars behind, and now they're squabbling. So all of this sedentary working together, Reece, they're all setting up nearly as if they were all one big team working together. That's broken. That's done. That's over with. We got a motor race again.
We have indeed. Here's the replay of what happened between Albert and Maloney. Bo just turning in and I think expecting Maloney to yield. He might not have been aware that there were cars coming out of the pits next to him. Fortunately, it didn't cause a bigger crash. But look at that looming over the hill. It looks like this pack has sorted themselves out enough that they can get the momentum up again and start catching up to Leonage and Rattray White at the front of the field. What a race this is turning into.
Well, Rattray White, remember, he's throwing the dice. He's rolled the dice. He's rolled them supremely early. He came to the pit lane on lap 11. The cars ahead of him, Leonage, lap 15. The guys behind him, lap 16, right? So that's where everyone sort of popped in and around things. So he's got 4 laps on those tyres. He's nearly lost the tow. He got past at the end of the straight in the middle of the lap, and he's nearly lost the tow. He's right on the fringes of it. The worst possible thing that can happen for Rehan Leonage right now is for Rattray White to give the cars behind him a tow. He's clear. He's setting sail into the sunshine. He's going to be tenths of a second, nitpicking little bits and pieces of time. Leonage slower than the rest of the pack, but they will be faster. If they get a tow, they'll be supremely faster. Indeed, they will. But how much are they going to want to save more fuel is the question. No. Dear, easy does it, 3 wide. Oh dear, Dylan Rudd is right in the midst of all of this. Oh my lord, Lachlan Capel gets Dylan Pereira there, and through comes Dylan Rudd. What a fight that is. Albert in the teal machine still dealing with damage to the side from when he made contact with Maloney. Oh god, when you're in a pack like this at a draft circuit like Watkins Glen, it's so easy to lose bulk time. Look at how much they've cost themselves to the pack ahead already. Well, Dylan Rudd, remember that worked out in his favour. He lost so many spots, and he just got them. He was looking at. He was going to have to pick them off one by one by one by one. That was basically what he was going to be doing for the next 5 or so laps, right? Instead, he got a freebie. He got them all to check each other up, fly by all of them down the inside. And there's an incident, a redress for Stenberg here. This will be why.
Yeah, so it's Stenberg versus Latter, and that's on the way into the boot section. Looks like Stenny trying to fling it up the inside there, but locked up
right.
and hit Latter wide. So, yeah, that's easily on Stenny there, but he'll take that on the chin and keep going. So redress ordered, and away we go again. Luke Rosella has passed Zach Rattray-White for second spot. Zach is now right in the midst here of the front pack. How far ahead is Rehan Leonage? Well, it's about 1.2 seconds is the gap. I'm sure that'll be made up by Luke Rosella easily.
Well, Rosella's got a little bit of an advantage. He got the first offerings to get by Rattray-White, and now Rattray-White's sort of covering the inside. He wants to harass James Scott. He's lifted out. He's actually lifted out. He said, here, have this one out. Actually, maybe he's slower in a straight line, actually. That might have just been wing angle.
Yeah, maybe. Not too sure what's going on there. Take it as easy as we can into the boot. Rattray-White trying to defend from Maloney, but Jake decides, no, I'm going to get myself in here and move my way past you. Rattray-White's tyres will now be past their best, or just about. He was pushing very hard on the way out of the pits when he pitted. He's currently on the 8th lap on those tyres, and that's starting to approach overworked territory. Yeah, and falling back very, very quickly. Although he could have made it a touch easier for Maloney. That's the difficulty, isn't it? He threw everything he possibly could have at them. Now that everyone else's tyres are starting to go off the cliff. Fastest lap time, James Scott got a huge toe. Got a really, really good option that last time by. Not the current lap that we're currently on, the last time by. Now they're all starting to close in. Leonage has got the lead. How much fuel do they start saving, though? That's the real question. Yeah, it is. They managed to extend the first stint out by quite some margin. They pitted, okay, so 3 laps ago. That's about lap 17, lap 18. So really, to get to the end, it's only a matter of 11 to 12 laps each, which is what we were expecting the stint length to be anyway. I don't know. I mean, if honestly, any bit of fuel you save is going to help. But by how much is the question. I think it's going to come down to raw pace, at least in the case of the Lobs Esports guys, because they're continuing to chip away at Leonage out front.
Well, you want track position, but you don't want to be punching that hole. That's you get track position, you're leading the race, you look all cool, you're on the broadcast, you're winning, everyone along is watching at home cheering you on. But you've got to punch that hole. You've got to punch that hole. So right now, saving fuel means that anytime you sort of gain in fuel saving, well, that eats out of your fuel margin that you've got to add into the next stop. The problem is you need about 20 litres to go into this tank or so to cover tyres. So if your fuel save beyond needing less than 20 litres to finish the race, there's no point, because you're still going to put about 20 litres into the car anyway. So you may as well just press on.
Yeah. I guess a big part of it is also trying to judge when the best time is to make a move, because you can be aggressive at this point in the stint and move your way forward, but if you can't pull a gap on the cars behind, then that just gives an extra chance for them to draft you back later on in the race, and you'll end up exactly where you started. You've just got to try and work your way forward without compromising yourself too much. You're looking after your future self in a race like this.
Have a look. There's a couple of cars I kind of want to point out at this point in time. One of them is Blake Warboys. He's had a really quiet night, but it's been a great night. He's now at the back end of this front chain. So he's actually reasonably in contention to pick himself up a top 10 and a huge bank worth of points. The other driver is Tom Freer, and we talked about him during qualifying. Didn't get that. Oh, City's just made a huge impact with the wall at the top of the S's. It might be, we might have to change it from Madison's wall. It might have to become TTR's wall.
Yeah, I think so. Rattray-White losing another position there. That's Dylan Rudd making his way past, but Yeah, Kurt Stenberg with a pretty large impact, and it's almost going to get worse for him here. He's already carrying damage to the right-hand side, but whack, and well held, but it's compromised him, and now he's going to have to let Tom Freer go, or will he?
Not.
No, he's not. Side by side again. Senni just fights for every inch of racetrack, doesn't he? It doesn't matter what condition his car's in or how much he's sliding around. Freer is going to have to work for this, and he's worked it beautifully. A nice run on the way down to the heel of the boot. Stenni moves to the side a little bit to try and pressure him into making a mistake, but leaves room on the inside. Let's see if Kenneth Latta can take advantage of all of this running as well. Freer again diving up the inside. This has cost him in the past. They managed to continue on here. Stenni again with momentum. Take it easy. Side by side again. They've spent a whole lap having to compromise their lines here. And Stenni still holds on to the position. What a great defense this is.
Now he's lost a toe. And the other thing I was going to say about that was if he wanted to stamp TTR on that wall, he stamped it on because there was a big old logo down the side of the car. Freer again!
Wow. I mean, he's supreme under brakes, isn't he? And supreme on throttle out of turn 1, too. Looks like he's going to get the position here. Stenni's going to have to fall into line coming through the second corner here. So Tom Freer finally past Kurt Stenberg and into the top 15.
He's going to get a toe here, Reese. He'll have another crack at him. This won't be over.
Oh, I'm sure. Kenneth Latta we're riding on board with, but look to your right and you will see Brenton Hobson creeping up alongside, coming into the carousel. Hobbo taking advantage of all of the side-by-side running ahead of him and trying to make up another spot. 2 positions down from where he started right now. If he can at least get back to where he started, he'll have had a good night, I imagine.
Tom Freer, back row of the grid to 15th. He's plus 20, Reese. What a night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not been easy. He's had that fight with Stenni. He's still improving where he sits on track. At the same time, Andre Youssef and Luke Mitchinson are only just down the road. Like I said, War Boys and Freer, oh boy, they're having great nights. What about Lachlan Capel? 7 spots up. Blake War Boys up 8. There's so many cars just making moves here tonight.
Indeed, and you know, Tom Freer, I had a feeling when I saw his qualifying go the way it did, I had a feeling that he would be turning it up in the race, and he certainly has. Here's Vlasblom and Young. Paul Young gets into the side of Zach Vlasblom and hits him wide, coming through the left-hander off the boot, back onto the classic layout of the circuit. Looks like Blake Delaney wants a go at this as well, but swiftly back into line goes Zach Vlasblom. Fantastic racing, no matter where you look.
Well, I don't have enough experience in these supercars, Reese, so I'm going to have to get behind the wheel of them in the coming weeks because everywhere I look, every driver is having a fight. There's a squabble, there's an argument, there's a disagreement over real estate out there as it currently stands. And if there's one thing I know, the real estate market's getting weaker.
Yeah, it is, but Dylan O'Shea is negative gearing and trying to make some profits. He's just gone past Jake Maloney into the carousel and up into 4th spot.
What a race, what a race. Dylan O'Shea's doing supreme tonight. Car in a great spot, car in a really, really good position. Now he's attached to James Scott, and he looks like he's got rubber. Alternatively from Dylan O'Shea, this is him just going, yep, I've hit my fuel mileage, boys. So now it's no longer fuel mileage saving, whereas the car's out of him, although I get the feeling Scott's probably saved the most fuel. It's one of the cars in the best positions. But Leonage is still leading this race. So, you know, they're all bottling in behind here. It could break out at any moment, and Dylan O'Shea, if there's one thing I know about O'Shea, he doesn't wait. He has a crack. He has an absolute go.
Yeah, I mean, his move at the carousel on Maloney was something else. You know, Maloney, I think, definitely saving fuel still, but, oh, easy does it. Blake Delaney here trying to make a move outside of the number 40. Oh, wow, uses all of the exit. It's going off ahead as well. Pereira, Warboys, Briggs, and Capel all fighting hard, but we'll stay with these guys for a brief moment. Looks like they've sorted themselves out at the final corner, and Warboys will be defensive versus Pereira. In comes Andre Youssef, first driver to take the second stop.
So that's lap 23. It's going to be 14 from here, so it's a slightly longer stick. Brady Baldwin and Jamie Dyke both dive out of that group as well, so that was perfectly timed in terms of the onboard camera. They're both going to get to the lanes. So longer run to home from here, but they had to do something. They were all starting to fall off, so, you know, opportunity. I'll be really interested to see if Lachlan Capel doesn't go for an undercut here, and the reason for that is about 1.6 seconds off the rear bumper of Seb Flock. Seb Flock's about 1.5, 1.6 seconds off Zach Rattray White. So those sort of cars in those positions where they're just that 1.6 seconds off, if they can get out, put a reasonable flyer in, and maybe conserve the tire, don't take all of what you can out of the tire, all of a sudden they've got good tire life and they're back in that lead pack again.
A lot of stories are going to converge in the next 5 laps, 14 to go for the front of the field. Rehan Leonage still holds on to a gap of about 0.6 of a second. Luke Rosella and James Scott, they've just been backing off in those crucial places. They are keeping the gap there. They still want the slipstream from Leonage. They want to conserve. They want to keep their tyres safe. They want to try and have a proper run at the finish once the pit cycle is over, but now they have to deal with Dylan O'Shea, who's turned up the aggression and might be looking to make a move before they come into the pits. Do any of them decide to come in this time? No, they don't. They've only been out there for 9 laps, Leonage at least, 8 laps completed for everyone from Rosella down to Rudd.
So here it comes. I mean, you know, in terms of our fastest lap of the race, it was 144, 132 for James Scott, and that most recent lap time by James Scott ran a 45.567, so 1.4 seconds off, but he's in a fuel save window, right? So there is that little bit of that going on. Then you've got the Fishy Motorsports cars who are going to dive to the pit lane deeper in the field. Everyone's fallen off a reasonable amount, so, you know, the tyres have definitely crossed that threshold, starting to fall off in a little bit of clip. I don't think we're seeing everything we possibly can for these leaders, but Leonage had a crack. Look what he's done for him, so who's going to be the next one to try that undercut strategy?
That is the question. The drivers who are currently on the longest stints include Paul Young, Machado, Morris, and O'Reilly. Everyone else, about 12 laps max for likes of Freer and Hobson. We keep an eye out here on the 22 of Adam Briggs, who's currently on the 9th lap of his stint, chasing down Lachlan Capel, who's on the 10th lap of his stint. Blake Warboys has been out there the longest in this pack, currently on his 12th lap since coming into the lane.
So the way I always like thinking about it, Reese, is if you do the same thing as everyone else around you, you don't gain anything, right? You're never going to win anything. The problem is if you go too far off strategy, there's a reason why the best strategies are the best. They're generally considered the fastest out on track. Now, you can make some tinkering. That's why we see fuel saving. You know, that sometimes you can save enough fuel that you cover yourself and you make a huge boatload of time. You just put yourself in the right position at the right time. So it's difficult to go off sequence, but at the same time, if you're in that chain and you can't go anywhere, have a crack, do something. Grab the race by its horns and just pull it, wrestle it around.
Yeah, that's evidently what Dylan Pereira has decided to do, because he's come off the back of this train and into the pits. Joining him are Luke Mitchinson, Justin Wallace, and Tyson Broad. Have all been out for 10 laps or longer. Justin Wallace completing 14 laps on that stint of tyres. Paul Young finally moves into the pits after 17 laps on those tyres. Same for Ben Morris. The Phase 4 duo were the first to take that initial stop. Let's see if that strategy, this super long middle stint, has worked out for them.
And Jake Maloney to Rehan Leonage is less than a second. There's 5 cars in that. There's 5 cars covered by less than a second as we get off the end of the back straight.
Oh God, it's close. I mean, man, I'm breathless right now. I am fighting for oxygen at every opportunity. There's just so much going on in this race. Dylan O'Shea falling off the back of the Lobs Esports duo now. Might be about time for him to look at coming into the pits. Maloney is dialing up the aggression here. The thing is, though, I think they want to follow Rehan Leonage in.
No, they don't want to lead. No, they don't want to lead. Split the strategy. Have one do one thing, have one do the other thing. Then you really throw the cat amongst the pigeons and you control both strategies as well. That's the key.
Yeah, you do.
2 cars.
Yeah, this is the advantage that Rosella and Scott have as Leonage is coming in. Oh, Maloney is going to stay out. Contact. Easy does it. Dylan O'Shea almost cleaned up the back of James Scott there. Leonage almost getting run into by Rosella. Now, question is, Maloney is going to be out for an extra lap on his own. I mean, he had to do something different to the guys around him. Remember, Maloney was the race leader for the longest time, but now that he's had that coming together with Bo Albert and he was off the lead like he was, he has to try something different. But is this the different he would have wanted?
I don't think he was ready for them to pit.
No.
I think he was thinking they were all going to go an extra lap. So I think he got caught off by it. I don't necessarily think that was a choice. Oh, Rosella's coming out the back end of the queue.
He has, yeah. He was compromised a bit there. Leonage got out behind James Scott, and then Dylan O'Shea wedged his way in there. Rosella had to back off on pit exit, so now the Lobs Esports cars are split, and O'Shea is dialing it in. Here he goes. Side draft off Rayan Leonage coming into the carousel. Will he be able to get the move done around the outside? Leonage is super late on the brakes. Contact. He's sent wide, and through goes Dylan O'Shea. Clears him by the time they get to the exit. Now the 9.5 SimSports number 19 is in contention.
And was that an accuracy mistake from Luke Rosella? Remember Dylan O'Shea? Was it Dylan O'Shea? No, it was Dylan Rudd on that first pit stop. Who didn't quite hit his marks in terms of his still. He'd be up here. He'd be amongst this. It's about being accurate. But O'Shea's had a quietly good car all night, and now he's got the first opportunity. He was accurate throughout the stint, saved a ton of fuel, put himself in a really, really good pit stop strategy. The difference in terms of stops, about a second between James Scott and Rayan Leonage. That's how long they were static for. That was that tow. That was the fuel they saved.
Well, in comes Jake Maloney. He's followed in by Sebastian Flock and Adam Briggs. Jamie Machado is going to make it 21 laps at least on a stint here. That's incredible stuff from Machado. He's just ahead of our leaders here. But he will jump straight in. This is a bit of an awkward spot. Oh, they just managed to stay behind in time to maximize the exit. But James Scott, you can see, is starting to go defensive. Maloney just off the jacks now. He's going to come out a long way behind.
Is Dylan Rudd going to get him? Maybe, actually. He's going to rejoin right around Dylan Rudd.
Comes out ahead. But he's still going to be losing momentum up the hill. So it is now between James Scott, Dylan O'Shea, Rayan Leonage, and Luke Rosella, who's got a big slipstream. It's covered by Rayan Leonage. O'Shea now has a go at James Scott. The lead is kept there for Scott, and Leonage will defend from Luke Rosella, who tries cutting inside. Bit of side-by-side contact, took out the wing mirrors there. Rosella has to sit behind. All of this battling is going to bring the advantage right back to Maloney. Look at how much he's caught up already.
Significant amount. They were all tripping over each other. Now there's no more saving. You don't save fuel from here to the flag. You got to press on everything you've got. Have a look at Dylan O'Shea. Think about this. This is a guy that's been in and around it for a long time. Hasn't had major standout performances, but he's been quick enough to threaten. Could tonight be the night they finally tune that 19 car up? Could tonight finally be the time where he just finds that sting in the tail and puts really a big old stamp on what could be a super strong year? He's such a good guy. He's got such a bank of talent, and he's not had a great amount of luck. Tonight, things might change.
Yeah, Dylan O'Shea's raced incredibly well here tonight. He's had his usual aggression that I've gotten used to seeing from him, but it's been measured. It's been responsible. 10 laps to go, coming up to 9 now here at Watkins Glen. The battle is far from over.
Yeah, it's about 50 Ks from here. It's going to be right up around 49.5 or so Ks to the finish. It's tight, it's tough. You've got to be in the slipstream. You've got to prepare yourself. Think about your move, though. James Scott, for the first time tonight, leads this pack, and he's going to be using all of that fresh air. Have you got a strong car in a straight line? How much wing are you running? How trimmed out are you? I really think the Lobs Esports cars are very, very trimmed out. Spoke to some of the TTR drivers after Sebring. And they said, yeah, the Lobs were definitely running less ring, maybe some rake settings as well. So the Lobs guys tend to like a car that's a little bit quicker in a straight line. That's how he's going to defend as James Scott. Feed the dirty air through the middle of the lap.
Yeah, that's it. O'Shea was making up a ton of time down the straight. He's definitely not saving fuel now. I don't think any of these guys are. Meanwhile, fighting still happening further on back. This is the battle for 15th and 16th. Andre Youssef having to make way for Tyson Broad coming through the carousel. This is a nice little pack, this one. Got Justin Wallace trying to make up some time here, up 13 spots. Could it be 14 if Youssef messes up here? He does not, sticks to the inside, and Kenneth Latter will have to watch on as this battle goes on ahead of him. He's got Michael Whiting for very close company. Defensive again from Youssef. And Wallace on the racing line will get on the brakes a bit later. Latter even later still almost gets into the back of Wallace.
It's not going away. Tom Free is now up 21 spots as well. Sits 14th, just outside the top 10. And the other driver that's had it Supreme Night, we kept talking about him, was Blake Warboys. We haven't seen him do all that much on camera. He's now inside the top 10, sits 9th in a really, really strong spot for that WKMP entry.
And he's got Sebastian Flock in front of him to slipstream off nicely. End of the lap here for the 15th place pack. Tyson Broad has been skipping away from these two, and Justin Wallace is going to have another go here at turn 1 on Andre Youssef. Is it going to be yielded? It is not. Youssef so aggressive there, but he is off the track, and that interesting rejoin there. Almost contact in the corners. Don't go side by side through here, guys. It is suicide, and they managed to get through cleanly. Only just. Will Wallace be able to get it done this time at the carousel? Might get a little push from Latter. Is going to try and make it 3 wide on the way into carousel. No, he's going to pull out and let them sort themselves out from here.
How was the overspeed on Ken Latter, though? I can tell you the 900 car, he had a touch of slipstream coming off the back of Tyson Broad up ahead of him. He was still slower in a straight line. That Justin Wallace machine is pointy. The engine in it, I tell you what, at the moment, Ken Latter's going to have a go. He's forced him to cover.
He has indeed. And a bit of a compromised line there. Can Latter hook up the exit is the question. Oh, Maloney, that's a big slide there coming off the boot section. He had caught up to the top 4. But now he's going to have to do some of that work all over again, and he might have just overheated his tyres. He tried to make a move on Luke Rosella, but Rosella turned in.
Yeah, and I don't think he had any corner rights, and that's the key out of this one. So look, he's already caught him as he comes down to the heel, and now he's really on him. We've seen Tom Freer make this next move quite a number of times. A real late dart to the left, give them no room, but he had no overlap at the point of turn in, so no corner rights whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Luke Rosella had every right to take his preferred line into that corner. Maloney's just going to have to gear up and try again. Maybe try working with Dylan Rudd to get their way back up to the top 4. This fight's still not over. Kenneth Latter has managed to find his way past Andre Youssef finally, and Kurt Stenberg is now right in the midst of all of this as well. Youssef has to fall to the back of the train. Andre, it just seems, has not been able to hold on to the pace.
I think there's damage on the right front. So that time where he saw him slam the wall at the crest of the hill, that's just really cost his car, which is a shame. And Stenny looks the same. He, ever since his cars make contact there as they come up and out of the S's, has not looked quite as venomous, has not looked quite as quick, has not looked to turn all that well, and it's slow in a straight line as well.
In the meantime, Justin Wallace has found his way past Tyson Broad, so that race on Oz number 13 is looking mighty quick right now. Remains to be seen if Broad can fight back at him. They're on the same strategy in terms of tyre life. They're both on the 6th lap of their stint, but Wallace has just been driving magnificently these last few laps, up 15 spots now, and Tom Freer, the guy with the most positions gained in the field, is the next car up the road. He's got Brenton Hobson for very close company.
Interesting point to note, I reckon Tyson Broad might not have put enough fuel in that car. He might have just underfueled it a little bit. There's a couple of cars around him that have sort of, filled a little bit more fuel than he has, but he's on sort of the same margins as the leader, but he's not had a lot of help. So I think he might have underfueled that car, and him following Justin Wallace is actually a point to save that car.
Yeah, there was a 10.7 second stop from Tyson Broad. So we've got a few drivers here who are on for their best ever SCOPS finish right now. Warboys could be on for this if he can hold on to that 9th place. He's had 3 9th places so far and 1 7th place, but could beat them here. Rattray White's best finish, meanwhile, was 18th place at Road America last season. So if he can hold on to his position in the top 10, he's certainly got a lot to come away with from this round. I'm really impressed with Rattray White's performance here.
Well, the thing is, for Blake Warboys, he's actually quicker than the 2 cars ahead of him as well. 2/10 and 5/10 of a second, so half a second out of Rattray White on that most recent lap. So he's coming at them in terms of things. Maloney's fallen off, but he's still responded. He's actually still in contention, just catching a whiff back up front. And O'Shea's getting closer to James Scott. He's closer than he has been for a number of laps, but he just can't close that crucial last couple of feet. And by the time they come off the S's, he's just too far back.
Yeah. It's the dilemma of Watkins Glen, isn't it? You know, you try to get the best exits possible through these super fast corners, but these cars burn through the tires so much. 600 horsepower going through both rear wheels at the same rate. It can be frustrating when you're late on in a race and you know you've got pace.
He's closer. Dylan O'Shea's closer than he has been for a number of laps. So he's actually, this is the best he's looked. The problem is, again, I think that Lob's car is just so much quicker in a straight line. And that's the trouble, is that he's getting over speed. He's getting a huge draft. Again, he's closing. He's already closing. Closing. He might actually have a shot here. This is the best he's looked.
Is he going to... Oh, he's going to bump him. He's going to give him a bump draft. Interesting. He's trying to get the margin, I think, over Rehan Leonage, because he knows that if he tries to go for the move on James Scott, it's going to be defended like there's no tomorrow. And if there's too much side by side, then he stands to lose a potential second place finish. So I think he's striking the balance here. He's trying to give it a little bit more time, a little bit more of a gap back to Rehan Leonage, so he can afford to have a proper fight here with James Scott for the lead.
Well, it's not really working for him because Rehan Leonage is now closer again. But Dylan O'Shea's closer again now than he has been the last 2 laps. And remember, when we got off turn 1, I said, that's the goal!
Oh, no. Oh, there we go. That's done it. Out of second place is Dylan O'Shea, and Leonage immediately defensive to try and defend the position. And I think this has just unleashed James Scott.
Yeah, he'll disappear now. But this one isn't over P2. He's still offering tow, like just barely offering tow to these guys. What it does do, though, is this buys Jake Maloney back in. So he's not done either now. And Warboy's got past. Warboy's got the job done on Adam Briggs, so he's up to 8th now.
Warboy's continuing his steady rise through the field. And now, who gets the best run out of turn 1 of 2nd and 3rd? Leonage versus O'Shea versus Luke Rosella. Remember, Rosella was massively compromised in the second pit cycle. He wouldn't have wanted to come out behind all the other cars. He would have wanted to be with his teammate. Leonage, yeah, immediately defensive. He's trying to snatch us maybe a tiny bit of slipstream off James Scott, but there's nothing that Dylan O'Shea can do at Carousel for the time being. He'll be hoping that Leonage makes a mistake.
He's got more down. He's really strong as Dylan O'Shea as they come into the carousel. He gains so much time there. And look at the mid-corner speed here. Leonage turned in a fraction early, and O'Shea just carried that speed to the mid-corner. Leonage had to check up a little bit because it's just too tight, too much work to do in the front end of the car. O'Shea's harassing him. I reckon O'Shea would have won this race. That one mistake, I think, has cost him a race win.
Yeah, I think it has. I think he's just pushed the tyres too hard, and it was at this very corner that it happened. Defensive again from Leonage. Just keeps him behind, but has he gone too deep? Picks up the power. O'Shea now fancies a look, but it's protected again by Leonage, who goes middle of the road. He's positioning the car perfectly, stymieing the run for Dylan O'Shea. It's brought Luke Rosella right into it. It's brought Jake Maloney right into it. You can't even see him from that angle.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we've got 3 more laps after this one. It's too early for my mind to be covering for your life. because the problem is you've got to race these guys for a number of laps. Now you buy Rosella in, now you buy Maloney, and Maloney's got the best tyres of a lot of them. Bar that mistake, could that be enough heat? I think Leonage has got to be in trouble when they get to the carousel. Got to be in big time trouble.
Yeah, tries to maximize the exit. Hold the throttle as close to flat as you can. Maybe a slight lift up through the S's, but don't want to give up too much pace. Now this is the point where O'Shea in the 9.5 Mustang up the top of your screen has the run. Leonage weaving. No, certainly won't. There's rules around that. So keep it nice and simple. Into the carousel. Slight bump maybe on Dylan O'Shea from Luke Rosella, who's now right in the midst of this. He wants to get two Lobs Esports cars onto the podium. It's covered again from Leonage. This is a very staunch defense, one that I haven't seen much of from the 79.
And now it goes from offense to defense.
Maloney! Oh my God, he saw the door open and he was like, yeah, I'll wedge myself right in there. Oh, but unfortunately the exit is not with him. Contact with Rosella, has to fall back in behind again.
And Dylan Rudd was 3 seconds behind these guys. He's now only 1.5 in between that. That's how much speed they're costing each other. Scott's out to a 2-second advantage. They are costing each other supreme amounts of time. Rudd is going to get into this fight in the last couple of laps. We're going to have 2 to go, Reese. If I was blocking, I would have started now. That gives me enough time. I'm waiting for race control. I reckon there might be a warning about that weaving, though. I think it'll be a warning. There was no harm done, though, and that's the key.
That it is. All right, here we go then. 2 laps to go at Watkins Glen. The sun comes out once more. The track temperature has fallen to 35 degrees Celsius.
Good exit.
Yeah, good exit once again here from Dylan O'Shea. Won't be able to take advantage up through the S's. It's single file through here, but wait until they get to the straight. What line does Leonage decide to take? I'd expect him to stick right to the inside. O'Shea's going to have to find the long way around. Look at the performance of the 9.5 Mustang in the slipstream, and he's going to box Leonage in. Contact side by side. O'Shea almost went airborne there. He's going to try and stick it in around the outside. More throttle in the mid-corner. He's going to get it. He's going to have the inside line for the left-hander. Will he be able to get it done? The door opens. Meanwhile, for Luke Rosella, but a bit of a lock-up means that he won't be able to take advantage. O'Shea back into second place. Will Leonage be able to fight back?
And now have a look at Leonage. Leonage immediately went defensive because he knew Rosella was coming. That's presented an opportunity. Maloney's in this picture. And I tell you what, Dylan Rudd's only just out of it. Now Rosella's gone defensive. Oh no, Pereira!
Oh, that's very bad for Pereira, unfortunately. O'Shea's made another mistake at the heel of the boot. He seems to have problems keeping the car stable there. It's brought Leonage right back into it.
And I tell you, there's a massive battle for 15th as well. So whilst we're talking all of this, they're squabbling over everything. We haven't talked about Warboys. Warboys is right on the bumper. He's on the gearbox. If there's any fluid leaking out the rear end of that Zach Rattray white car, it's filling his windscreen. There are so many battles right all over the place, and Justin Wallace leads that 15th pack. He's got to 14th. He's ahead of that chain. Scott gets the white flag. But man, there are positions going to swap everywhere here, Reese.
Yeah, we're going to see some massive moves here on the final lap. We'll have to keep our eyes trained everywhere, but we'll keep ourselves in here with the battle for second. What a run for Rehan Leonage through turn 2. He's got the momentum. Dylan O'Shea has nothing left in those rear tires. Luke Rosella could find a move here at the carousel. Oh, he almost gets onto the grass. Maloney. Oh my God, Jake Maloney on the grass almost round the outside. 3 wide into the carousel. Maloney gets it. Wow!
But he's deep, and now he's going to check up, slides the rears. He's got Dylan O'Shea into the rear bumper. Rosella goes to the outside, O'Shea to the inside.
Oh my God, what a final lap this is. The battle for second. Maloney, I think, with the move of the race so far. If he can hold on to this, Luke Rosella keeps it on the inside here of Dylan O'Shea. Leonage will try and straighten the car up, but it's hard to do there at the toe of the boot. Immediately defensive for Luke Rosella. He wants to keep O'Shea behind. He's going to try, but they're all to the inside. They all have to compromise. Here comes Dylan Rudd. Oh, he can't take advantage. on the runoff area, the tarmac runoff area. I think that's just about it. What a finish this has turned out to be. James Scott has nothing to do with it. He has just run away with this in the final laps, and he is going to take the win in round 3 of V8SCOPS here at Watkins Glen. Jake Maloney with the move of the night, grabbing second place on the last lap. What a recovery that is.
Oh, I thought for sure he wasn't going to pull that car up. I thought there's no way in the world. From where he sent that car and how early the others around him brake, there's no way he's stopping that. There's no way he pulls it up, but he does. And then Justin Wallace hangs onto this one as well. My word.
Okay, my voice is utterly gone now. That is crazy. Well,
get an oxygen cylinder, Reese. That's what you need.
Yeah, this is what happened to Dylan Pereira, meanwhile, racing with Lachlan Capel. And, that's unfortunate there, coming together on the exit of the carousel. Pereira, of course, this is where we caught him, having just spun. But there's 2 parts to this incident. They have the pack coming up here. Ken Latter is the yellow car you see approaching. And, that's a dangerous re-entry to be sure.
That will be. There's no way that stands in terms of things that the stewards are looking at that very, very badly. That may just be a straight round ban. I don't know. I've seen a worse rejoin. To be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. Jay asks if we want to watch that last lap again.
Yes.
I say yes, please.
Yes,
And
please.
yes, please, sir. May I have some more? All right. This is the white flag lap. O'Shea in second, Leonage in third. Maloney was at the tail end of this pack with Dylan Rudd when the lap started. I'm glad we have this opportunity to reconsider this battle with calmer heads, because I just completely lost it when Maloney made this move.
You lost it. I was thinking, no, he's in the fence. He's missed the brakes. This reminded me of Dave Kirby just on the outside from the Split 2 race. Gets the momentum. Is there a space to go? Leonage can't block everywhere. O'Shea's blocking to the inside, and he just goes, all right, boys, well, thanks for all the help.
Yep, just dragged the brakes long enough to get the car rotated on the throttle on the exit. Did get a bump from O'Shea, but good on him to hold on to it. Man, I can't believe that they all made it through this corner cleanly. I've never seen 5 cars so close together as I have there.
You know what I liked about it, Reese? It was good touring car racing. Paint was traded and everyone come out the other side. Good touring car racing. You got to be able to bang doors. You got to trust the guy alongside you. These guys might not like each other right now, but this takes a certain amount of level of respect, car control, and understanding of what everyone's trying to do. It takes a race brain, it takes skill, it takes talent, it takes the whole kit and caboodle.
It does indeed. And I mean, all of the squabbling just allowed Maloney to jet away and protect that second spot. I think that all of these drivers should be happy with their performance here. You know, they might have their momentary regrets. Oh, I should have gone this side in this corner. I should have backed off here or gone for it here. But, you know, at the end of the day, they raced as hard as you've ever seen, and they all got to the finish in one piece.
Yeah, they did. Oh my word, that was a blast. And to tell you, to be honest with you, Reese, I was thinking, we're gonna have a quiet night here. It's gonna be a train. It's gonna be a snooze fest. We're not gonna see all that much. They proved me wrong. I like being proved wrong.
Yeah, I love it too. Absolutely magnificent. James Scott, 4 seconds in the lead at the end. Maloney, 4/10 ahead of Luke Rosella. That is your podium. O'Shea and Leonage, 4th and 5th. They'll be certainly happy to get top 5s, but Ryan Leonage obviously not too happy with how a few things have gone for him in that race. Dylan Rudd will come home in 6th spot. Rattray White gets his best V8SCOPS finish ever to date. 7th place in the end. Blake Warboys, stand up and applaud, started in 20th place up to 8th. Adam Briggs and Sebastian Flock will round out the top 10.
Yeah, and then we'll cross over to Lachlan Capel. We had a reasonable race, and Brenton Hobson just outside. Tom Ferrer from the back row of the grid gains 22 spots to 13th. That's a phenomenal race. Wallace in behind him, Broad, Stenberg got beaten, boxed around the ears, and the car showed it. Michael Whiting from Brady Bourne. Brady Bourne had a quiet race, but a reasonably good one. Andre Youssef in 19th and Paul Young in 20th with an off-tyre strategy.
21st place in the end was Tyler Blackburn, who finished on the podium in Split 2. Jamie Dyke, Chris Miller, Ben Morris, and Dylan Pereira, 25th place there, with Machado coming home in 26th place, just ahead of Ewan Baker, who would have been hoping for a lot better from that one. Same goes for Blake Delaney, Jake O'Reilly, and Zach Vlasblom, the last cars to finish on the lead lap. Kenneth Latter, one lap down, with the unfortunate coming together with the dangerous re-entry on the final couple of laps. Sho Kanatake suffered damage early on, got repairs done, came across the line 3 laps down. Luke Mitchinson, Bo Albert, and Robbie Gibbs retiring from the race. Big shame for the ERT squad. There's got to be a bit more in that for that team. But regardless, now we get to the drivers whose races went well. James Scott joins us in the commentary box here. Another win on the board for you, James, continuing your perfect run of round results for this season, but it certainly didn't come easy.
Yeah, no. Guys, yeah, tough race. Obviously, a lot of draft here on the usual track, but even when you take away the bus stop as well, it makes the draft just that little bit more powerful as well. So yeah, no, a lot of drafting and fuel saving, whatever else in that race. But yeah, lucky I was able to sort of get a gap there in that last little stint, and didn't have someone on my bump all the way to the end.
Yeah, I suppose that's a little bit of relief that you were looking for. Certainly had to work hard on the strategy. You were one of many drivers who tried to extend the first stint as much as possible. Obviously, the 2 compulsory pit stops here, how you played them was incredibly crucial tonight. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, very strategic race, this one. And it's something that, the team's been really working on. We've made some maybe not so favourable strategy calls in the past, but the team's really working on making sure the strategy's right and give us the best chance that we can to run at the front. So no, there's a lot of strategic moves and pit stops and everything else going on, but we thought running long in that first stint would be beneficial, and try and shorten up those last 2 stops, and give us some fresh tyres when we need them. So yeah, no, the strategy was really good.
Well, we go to pretty much a polar opposite circuit next round. Sonoma is the next track we visit here, and it is quite a twisty layout there. Obviously, you guys at Lobs Esports will be working hard on the setup, trying to tune the dampers for the best run across all those very big curbs.
Yeah, I haven't driven at Sonoma, me personally, for a long time. But yeah, no, it's completely polar opposite track, like you said, to this one. Nice wide open track, this one. Sonoma pretty tight and twisty, so we'll try and tune the car up as much as we can, and see what we can come up with, and hopefully come up with something good.
Anyone you'd like to thank for your victory tonight, James? Another great round for you.
Yeah, all the guys at Lobs Esports, Jared for jumping in and being on the pit wall, making the strategy calls tonight, and Dylan and Luke for all the work that we were able to do sort of in these last day or so. So the car was really good, and really happy with how tonight went. And obviously our great sponsors as well, Speed Cafe, Ryker Performance, and you guys for the broadcast and the series admin guys as well.
James Scott there, round winner for round 3 of V8SCOPS here at Watkins Glen. In second place on the road, Scott, was Jake Maloney, and I can't wait to hear about that final lap.
Jake Maloney, more like Jake Monopoly on good moves, mate. That was a barnstormer. The C's, they just about parted and you found the perfect gap. Pulled it up on the brakes. That last fight was just so intense. Took some mistakes for you to get that far back, but you got to the lead pack at the perfect time.
Yeah, no, that was very interesting at the end. Yeah, I did a pretty poor job of putting some half moves on Luke and just generally on pit strategy to end up back there. And yeah, I thought fifth was going to be it for the night. Was going to bank that, but then sort of all opened up there on the last lap, and I just thought wherever there's a gap, I'm going full throttle, and I'll be the last one to brake, and somehow made the corner and was ahead of everyone.
Mate, that was just supreme. Obviously, I mean, you led the first stage of the race, but you knew you were always going to be in trouble in terms of pit strategy. What goes through your head in that middle stint? What have I got to do? How am I going to line myself up? And I've got one less stint than the other guys to save this fuel in terms of things. There's a lot to do in that middle stint from a driver's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely probably should have saved a bit more, probably in that second stint, and probably undercut the guys in front. I should have done that to try and gain some of the track position back, but yeah, that was probably some of the downside of getting pole and leading the first stint. But I think all in all, good race, and it was good to get first SCOPS pole.
Mate, next time out, we're heading over to Sonoma. Lots of curbs to bounce over. Not so much drafting. Qualifying performance from Sonoma has got to be key. How early does the work go into getting that set up right? How early does it go into bouncing over this? There's a lot to practice for at Sonoma, because if you miss that qualifying, it's nearly non-recoverable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll get to it when pre-course starts for the next round. I think Sonoma, always a good track, a lot of fun racing there. I think we're racing the Cup layout, and it's one we've got a lot of history of racing over the years in SCOPS, so hopefully experience should count there, and yeah, love racing that track.
Mate, finally, the floor is all yours to thank anyone that you want to, man, and yeah, celebrate what was a phenomenal final lap.
Yeah, just big thanks to the team and Stenny and Andrew Fraser for the help tonight, and yeah, the setup was just what we rolled out at Phillip Island in the Pro Series, and yeah, worked perfectly here and was really fast, so yeah, big thanks to the team.
Mate, congratulations, and good luck for next time out, and boy, I think you might want to watch that highlight reel back a few times.
Yeah, already done it a few times, but we'll keep it on repeat. Thanks, guys.
Nicely done from Jake Maloney there. Second place on the road here at Watkins Glen, and in third it was Luke Rosella. Lobs Esports, 2 cars on the podium once more. Luke, you guys must be happy with how that went, but the second pit stop, what happened there?
Quite simple. I didn't save enough fuel in the first stint. Yeah, we kept relaying our tank remaining to our spotter, and yeah, every time James was like just a little bit, in front of me in terms of the fuel. So yeah, he just did a better job, and we got to look back at that and see how we can do better. But you know what? I'm really, really happy to get a first podium for Lobs. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing to be ashamed about getting onto the podium here at Watkins Glen. It was a very tough race, especially in the final few laps. That final lap, we already got Jake Maloney's perspective. What was your view of everything that went on there?
Yeah, so I mean, first props to Maloney for that move at the at turn 5. It's pretty sick. But yeah, I was struggling to sort of close the gap to Rehan in those final few laps. It's quite hard when the car in front of you has draft to catch them if you're pretty similar in pace with them. So yeah, I thought P4 was probably in the bag, but yeah, O'Shea's of course started battling Rehan and closed us all together. And yeah, I mean I can't really explain it. It was just like knee-jerk reaction every corner, just trying to survive. But yeah, that was insane. Got past O'Shea and just had to defend, not worry about trying to overtake Maloney, and yeah, trying to defend P3, and we got it done in the end. So it's good.
Do you think this has gotten your season on track? Because you were down in down a ways in the championship coming into this round, 13th spot to be exact. It's still early days. We've still got plenty of the season to go. So yeah, I presume you're just going to build on this and hope that the podiums come further.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating. I've had pretty good pace, but yeah, I've made just sort of small mistakes that really cost me. And I mean, to be honest, I'm actually happy to finish this race. I've blown a few engines in the last few weeks in other leagues and whatnot. So yeah, finally bring a fresh, a mint condition engine to the engine rebuilders back at the factory. So that's good.
Fantastic stuff, Luke. Well, anyone that you'd like to thank before we let you go?
So just thank all the guys at Lobs throughout the week, making a pretty mint setup. Want to thank, of course, Ryko as well. They make brilliant setups. And lastly, Speed Cafe.
Big thanks to Luke Rosella for joining us in the comms box. Final driver on the podium from this round of V8SCOPS. Of course, Scott, round 4, we go to Sonoma, racing the Cup layout, one of the twistiest tracks on the iRacing service. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be hard to make moves. It's going to be easy to make mistakes, but I'm looking forward to seeing a return to California.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit disappointed that as a sideshow we can't use those lights that are right there in the shot and do a big old run down the drag strip. It's when you mess around in the Sonoma layout within the sim, it's something that I don't know any group of mates that has not had a crack at the old drag strip run, and makes for some little bit of fun on the side as well.
Indeed it does. We'll mark that date in your calendar, the 5th of May from 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Of course, we'll have support categories on the Friday night before that as well on May the 3rd. So make sure you are here on SimSpeed TV, joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. I'm Reese Gardner, Scott Rankin alongside me in the comms box. Jay Kennedy was the one pressing all the buttons behind the scenes. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, we say thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.